Chapter 77. On Monday, the Human Observation Department began working on the issue of the abandoned club. Rin Kiyono found a way to convince all the members of the playing club to become a temporary consultant. Toru Watanabe's task was to convince the student council. If they helped the playing club enter the Tokyo University tournament, then they would recognize the Human Observation Department's legitimacy. The real high school student council didn't have as much of a presence as it did in the anime, and many people didn't even know who the president was. Although Toru Watanabe wasn't an ordinary person, he didn't know where the student council was either, so he decided to go to the principal's office. That's about it. I hope that principal can give us a chance to work hard for our rights. The old principal rubbed the back of his left hand with his right hand and said, "Ever since our school was founded, we've always advocated that students should manage other students. Watanabe-san, it's better for you to discuss this matter with the student council." "Okay, thank you, principal." Toru Watanabe said regretfully, "I'll pass on your words to Kiyono-san and Miki-san, and we'll think of something ourselves." "Of course." The old principal interlaced his fingers and clenched his fists. He pursed his lips and said, "Kamikawa believes in strength above all else. As long as Mr. Sano is able to lead the Blowing Club into the Kanto tournament, I believe that the student council will recognize the significance of your club's existence." "Thank you, principal. I'll tell them the same thing." "Okay, good luck. Oh, and don't fall behind in your studies." After leaving the principal's office, Toru Watanabe returned directly to his classroom. Now, it was up to the student council and the principal to decide. The Human Observation Department, no, Rin Kiyono-san, only needed to help the playing club enter the Tokyo University tournament. And Toru Watanabe would be able to practice his oboe and massage techniques in peace until the end of the Tokyo University tournament in August. Toru Watanabe was in a good mood as he took out his oboe whistle from his pocket and started blowing into it. The melody was Jingle Bells. After school, Toru Watanabe went to the activity classroom of the Human Observation Department and heard the discussion inside. Pushing open the sliding door, he saw that the 8-seater table was full. Even his seat was taken by Miyasahi. However, no one sat on Miki Kujo's sofa. It was unknown whether it was Rin Kiyono's reminder or they were too embarrassed to sit on it. Seeing Toru Watanabe come in, the band members said in unison, "Sorry to disturb you." "It's okay." Toru Watanabe waved his hand, indicating for them to continue. While they were chatting, Toru Watanabe threw his backpack on the sofa, took out the oboe he temporarily named Black Flute, assembled it, and solemnly put it aside. Then, with the whistle in his mouth, he flipped through the book, Basic Oboe Scale Technique Practice. "The problem is with the third years, they insist." Rin Kiyono glanced at Toru Watanabe. "Boo boo boo, boo boo boo, boo boo boo," she continued to play Jingle Bells. She continued, "If they insist, we can only..." After memorizing the book, Toru Watanabe took out the sound corrector, adjusted the frequency to 440 Hz, and then inserted the whistle in his mouth into the instrument. Jiga he stopped, and his fingers found the right position. This time, there was no sound. "It's okay, he's a beginner." Aha. Toru Watanabe cleared his throat, adjusted the depth of the whistle, and straightened his back. This thing was really troublesome. Other instruments had enough lung capacity and could always make a sound, but it just had to do the opposite. Because the oboe had a small air inlet, it could only blow in a little bit of air at a time, which was equivalent to stopping breathing. The feeling of holding carbon dioxide in the lungs was not pleasant. When a beginner played a long note, they would definitely feel dizzy, and it was not uncommon for serious cases to faint directly. Toru Watanabe's current task was to make a sound. He took off the whistle, put it in his mouth, and blew it like a whistle, then carefully studied the shape of his mouth in the book. Toru Watanabe learned to forget himself, but the people in the meeting on the other side were quite miserable. Halfway through speaking, they would suddenly say, "Boo boo boo," and after getting used to it, they would say, "Boo," again. Feeling that he had some experience with the shape of his mouth, Toru Watanabe inserted the whistle into the oboe, and occasionally there would be a sound like a duck quacking. Every time this happened, Everyone would quiet down and wait for the sound to pass. Rin Kiyono, on the other hand, rubbed her forehead with a headache. Knock, knock, knock. The door of the activity classroom was suddenly knocked. Come in. 2 men and a woman stood at the door, looking unfriendly. We are from the calligraphy department next door. Can we trouble you to not make too sharp a sound? Rin Kiyono smiled and looked at Toru Watanabe. Sorry, I will take it back to practice. Toru Watanabe put down the oboe. After being complained, Toru Watanabe could only learn the theory and whistle. Watanabe-san, for the oboe, you should find a teacher, a girl with a dangerous-looking hairstyle suggested when the playing department left. Ah, thank you. Toru Watanabe came back to his senses and nodded at the other party. After they left, Tetsumasa Watanabe prepared to continue practicing, but Rin Kiyono asked him, did the student council agree? They agreed. Rin Kiyono frowned. Tell me the truth. Toru Watanabe was about to continue whistling, but after hearing her words, he had no choice but to tell her about the meeting with the principal at noon. Next time the student council comes looking for trouble, tell them to go directly to the principal. He will definitely help us persuade them. Rin Kiyono nodded. She didn't mind Toru Watanabe using the power of Kiyono's family. She wouldn't use her privilege, but she wouldn't take the initiative to prevent others from using it. Even without her, there was still the Kujo family, and the result would still be the same. What about you? You seem to be in trouble? Toru Watanabe asked. I will take care of it. Under the setting sun, Rin Kiyono picked up a sealed book. The matter was more troublesome than Toru Watanabe had expected. He watched them hold several meetings, and it wasn't until Thursday that Rin Kiyono informed him that the matter had been resolved. Too slow. She frowned. I wasted a few days of practice. If they wanted to bring the level of Kanagawa High School to the Tokyo University tournament, 1 or 2 days were indeed important, and they had to race against time. But this had nothing to do with Toru Watanabe. Can I go with you? He asked. Rin Kiyono slightly tilted her head, and cast a puzzled look at him. I want to practice more. Toru Watanabe pointed to the oboe on the table. Not only in the activity room, but also in the rented house, Toru Watanabe also received complaints. He could only go to the river every morning and evening, but the progress was very slow, and there were too many mosquitoes in the summer. If he could go to the music room of the blowing club, not only could he avoid the mosquitoes, but he could also practice for a few more hours every day. But Toru Watanabe faintly had an ominous premonition. Before July, there was a high probability that he would still be fighting with the Ducks. Now he could only work hard, and Miki Kujo would see that he had done his best, and perhaps she would let him go, or give him a massage as punishment. On Friday, after a clear day, it began to rain again. Toru Watanabe was in a very good mood, and he didn't even sleep until late last night. June 21st, exactly 23 days had passed since the day he confessed to Miki Kujo on May 29th. Miki Kujo agreed to go out with him during the lunch break, that is to say, after today's lunch break, it would be exactly 1 month since he signed in. For the whole morning, Toru Watanabe was in a good mood, whistling, not because he was frivolous, or because he couldn't control himself, but because it was one of the ways for beginners to practice the oboe. During the lunch break, there was still some time before the signing in, so he followed Rin Kiyono to the music room. Today, it seemed that all the members of the wind instrument department were present, and the classroom was overcrowded. They were whispering to each other, their voices were not loud, but with more than 80 people together, it was simply a feast of noise. Please keep quiet, the meeting will now begin. The head of the wind instrument department, surnamed Komatsu, raised his voice and shouted. The classroom gradually quieted down. Komatsu continued, after everyone's discussion, and with the teacher's permission, we have decided to officially invite the first-year student Rin Kiyono to be our temporary consultant. Rin Kiyono entered the classroom from the door, and then went to the podium. Toru Watanabe followed behind, but after entering the classroom, he hid by the window. Let me introduce myself first. Even in the face of 80 people, Rin Kiyono was still fearless. My name is Rin Kiyono, and I specialize in trumpet. In the future, I will also be responsible for teaching the brass, and I will look for other first-rate teachers for the woodwinds and percussion." No one objected. Toru Watanabe guessed that during this period of time, she must have used practical actions to prove her strength on copper pipes. What a pity, I really wanted to see her single-handedly take on the wind instrument department. But then again, shouldn't this kind of thing be done by him, the protagonist? Why is he doing the simple and easy dirty work instead? While his thoughts were running wild, Toru Watanabe keenly noticed that someone in the crowd was staring at him. He looked in the direction of his intuition, and in the crowd, the beautiful face and graceful figure of Yoshimi Tamamo withdrew her gaze. The sound of chalk came, and Rin Kiyono pointed to the blackboard with a staff drawn on it, and on it was written, "Tokyo University Competition." This is everyone's goal this year. Toru Watanabe saw that many people were ashamed, and some people were expressionless. Rin Kiyono looked at everyone, and then turned around and drew a big X on the Tokyo University Competition. Hey, are you going to humiliate them in front of 80 people? Even if it's me, I can only take you and run away. Just as Toru Watanabe was thinking this, the sound of chalk came again. Please change the goal to this. Rin Kiyono pointed to the new words on the blackboard, which were so white that it almost reflected the light. National Competition Gold Medal. The scene suddenly became chaotic, and even the bass section members looked at each other. It seemed that they also didn't know about this play. Before anyone could stand up to question, Rin Kiyono's cold voice came first. You don't need to care about what your goal is, even if you just want to appear on the stage once. You just need to obey my orders, and strictly follow my arrangements. Her confident and arrogant words echoed in the quiet music room. Well said. A voice came from the crowd. Before Toru Watanabe could react, Rin Kiyono's eyes found her. Inoue Senpai, and the others, she looked at the people in the classroom one by one. I don't care what you think of me, my goal is only the national competition gold medal. Unlike you, as long as I have a goal, I will definitely achieve it. A slightly noisy voice sounded again. And I never fail, and I will not allow failure, so this time, I also hope to succeed. You are the eldest daughter of Kiyono family, how can you fail? A harsh voice responded, but this time it was another person. Toru Watanabe looked at Rin Kiyono. She said that she had not used the privilege so far, so she must not have. Even if other people took the initiative to let her use it because of Kiyono family, it would be too hasty to so easily deny all her efforts and achievements. Would she be angry? No. Rin Kiyono did not even respond. She put down the chalk. First of all, tonight, I will personally choose the 55 official members of Group A. What? Impossible. We also have a chance to go on stage. Isn't it natural for the third years to go on stage? In the face of the noise, Rin Kiyono sneered and said, Those who are speaking now are all those who feel that they are not strong enough to be chosen, right? Toru Watanabe gasped. You have a new email. My minister, please watch your words. There was an uproar below again. Some people stood up directly, and the stools were pushed away with an ear-piercing sound. Everyone blamed Rin Kiyono. What is a first year like, you know? Even the consultant teacher doesn't dare to make such a decision. Letting her guide us is indeed a waste of time. The door of the music room was opened, and the group led by Inoue left the classroom angrily. The remaining people exchanged uneasy looks. You can't even stick to what you've decided. It's good that such a person left. Ching Yi-rin said nonchalantly, I'll say it again, you can feel uneasy, you can choose not to participate, you can hate me, but if you've decided to participate in the tournament with me, from now on, please follow my orders. She picked up a stack of music scores from the podium. Minister Komatsu, please distribute them to everyone. Okay. Minister Komatsu, who had been in a dilemma since just now, quickly replied. The music scores were distributed to everyone. Because there were many, Toru Watanabe also took a copy. These are the designated songs and self-selected songs for the selection of official members. Everyone, practice well. By the way, don't think that you can relax just because you entered Group A. Until the competition, as long as a member of Group B who fails to be selected is strong enough, I will kick Group A to Group B at any time. Those who don't want to participate in the selection after school today, you don't have to come. But before you make a decision, please think about your experience in the concert hall last Saturday. There are still 2 scheduled performances. Are you willing to continue like this? Finally, I will say this one more time. Since this is something you have decided on, I hope that you can stick to it. The classroom fell into silence for a while. Rin Kiyono turned around and left the music classroom. Toru Watanabe followed behind her. He said helplessly, "There should be a better way to say it, right? It's not a bad thing for conflicts to erupt in the beginning. I will not allow anyone to quit after working hard for a period of time. That makes sense, but aren't you afraid of being hated?" Rin Kiyono stopped and turned to look at Toru Watanabe. "Let me tell you a reason why I'm so outstanding." "Please say. If you care about the people you care about, you don't need to care about what others think." Toru Watanabe nodded. There was no one in the classroom worth caring about. Rin Kiyono glanced at him. "What are you talking about? Aren't we going to practice?" "Ah, right." Toru Watanabe slapped his head. He didn't think of practice, but the sign-in reward. Sign-in days. Miki Kujo 30 days. Player received a sign-in gift pack. Points 200,000. Money 100 million. Charm discount scroll. 30% discount for players with charm below 10 points. 30% discount for players with charm above 10 points. Intelligence discount scroll. 30% discount for players with intelligence below 10 points. 30% discount for players with intelligence above 10 points. It was very rigid, and there were no additional surprises. But Toru Watanabe liked it. A whole 200,000 points. "Mickey, I love you. You want to die. Do you know what time it is?" Beep. Beep. Chapter 78. Points, 284,000. Looking at this line, Toru Watanabe instantly had the urge to max out his stamina, but he held back. Points could be exchanged in an instant. If he really needed more stamina, it wouldn't be too late to exchange then. Not only could he save points by training himself, but he could also cultivate a healthy lifestyle and train his willpower. He would gradually show a self-confident appearance. This wasn't something a simple 10 points of stamina could bring. A calm ocean couldn't train a capable sailor, a comfortable environment couldn't create a great man of the times. If possible, Toru Watanabe hoped to change the motto on the Enrollment and Employment Survey to this: "I want the world to bow down to me," or something like that. It was too shameful to think about it now. Toru Watanabe walked happily back to the music classroom. He looked around the classroom and found the head of the blowing department in the crowd. Head Komatsu. Misaki Komatsu turned around. "Watanabe-san? Is something wrong with Kiyono-san?" "No." Toru Watanabe said, "It's like this, I want to apply to practice the oboe in your activity classroom." Then he added, "Please don't worry, I definitely won't affect your training and ensemble. If I cause you any trouble, you can let me go at any time." Misaki Komatsu smiled. "Everyone's practice usually doesn't affect anyone. Watanabe-san, why would you affect it?" "It's okay." "Alright, do you want to join the blowing department?" "Join the blowing department?" "Yes." "As long as you join, not only will you be able to use the classroom as you wish, but you'll also be able to receive guidance from Zaoji-senpai." After Misaki Komatsu finished speaking, the person with a wife's hairstyle next to her smiled gently at Toru Watanabe. "I'm the head of the oboe bassoon department, Kaoru Hayami." Toru Watanabe recognized her as the one who kindly reminded him to find a teacher on Monday. "Zaoji-senpai, I'm Toru Watanabe, a first-year student. If I join now, won't it cause you trouble?" Everyone in the playing department was focused on the competition. Asking them to take out their precious time to teach a newbie like him would be too troublesome. If it weren't for the fact that he couldn't explain the source of the money, he could have just found a music teacher outside. Misaki Komatsu smiled and put her hand on Kaoru Hayami's slender shoulder. I saw earlier that she is the chief of the oboe bassoon section and the only member who can play the bassoon. In other words, regardless of whether consultant Kiyono is willing or not, she has to play the bassoon. Mei Hua. Kaoru Hayami shouted helplessly. During this period of time, Toru Watanabe had learned some common knowledge about musical instruments. He knew that many musical instruments had their own special mouths. For example, if an oboe player were to change to another instrument, they would have to learn it all over again. Moreover, if the original lip-reading habits were not engraved into their bones, it was very likely that they would forget it. Under such harsh circumstances, the oboe player changing to the bassoon and the bassoon to the oboe player were the most common choices. From this, it could be seen that there were many similarities between the two. Misaki Komatsu had asked Kaoru Hayami, who played the bassoon, to teach him for a reason. But don't look down on my Zayo because of this. Misaki Komatsu said proudly. Her ability can be said to be undisputed number one. There's also my Asahi classmate. Kaoru Hayami said with a smile. You two are tied for first place. Kaoru Hayami ignored the Misaki Komatsu and revealed a gentle smile. Watanabe classmate, I will teach you without affecting my own training. I hope that you can join the playing department and join the oboe bassoon section. If that's the case, then I'll have to trouble you. Toru Watanabe did not ask why the oboe club member was not allowed to teach him. In any case, he was not prepared to trouble others to waste their training time to teach him. Wait a moment. Misaki Komatsu skipped away and quickly came back with an application form. After Toru Watanabe filled it out, she clenched her fist and said loudly, The playing department will rule Kamigawa one step further. What? Toru Watanabe was stunned by her. It's like this. After Kaoru Hayami finished explaining, Toru Watanabe knew that the reason Misaki Komatsu said this was because she wanted the entire school to become a member of the playing department. Of course, this was impossible. The playing department did not pay wages, nor did it cover the allocation of students. They did not even pay for food and lodging. After entering the department, Toru Watanabe directly followed Kaoru Hayami to the oboe bassoon training room. It was even smaller than the bass department's room. It was just the right size to describe it as a palm-sized room. There was not a single person inside. Toru Watanabe did not ask where they went, but when the lunch break was almost over and there was only him and Kaoru Hayami in the room, he faintly felt that something was wrong. Hayami-senpai, where is the oboe club member? Kaoru Hayami put down the hookah bassoon and a trace of helplessness flashed in his eyes. Watanabe-san, I hope that you can tell Kiyono-san that the oboe club member, Sato Noriko, does not intend to participate in the selection. As the only oboe club member, even if her strength was only at the level of playing. In fact, because of the high difficulty of playing oboe, many bands only require the members to be able to play, she would definitely be chosen to be in Group A. But, not participating in the selection was another matter. It was obvious that she was opposed to Rin Kiyono being the consultant. The situation was very bad. Toru Watanabe revealed a smile. He wanted to see how Rin Kiyono would solve this problem. Today's happy events were coming one after another. It just so happened that the first and fourth classes had a class of home economics in the afternoon. Toru Watanabe was stirring the flour in his hands as he slipped to Rin Kiyono's side, who was wearing an apron and carefully handling the ingredients. Kiyono-san, I have good news and bad news. Watanabe-san, I don't need any more flour for my dishes. Ah, sorry. Toru Watanabe accidentally wiped the flour that had spilled on the dishes, but ended up smearing more flour, so he simply ignored it. Which one do you want to hear first? He said with a smile. The bad news. Rin Kiyono skillfully flipped the octopus balls on the model iron plate. The only oboe club member is a member of the resistance army. Rin Kiyono's hands paused. What's the good news? For the sake of the human observation department, I have resolutely decided to join the blowing club alone and become the new oboe club member. Lies. I will join the blowing club and help it conquer the world. Tell me the truth. Rin Kiyono frowned and said with a tone that said, I don't have time to laugh at you right now. Toru Watanabe threw the dough into the bowl and pointed at Rin Kiyono with his powdered finger. He pretended to be serious and said, "I like it when you're cold and aloof." Rin Kiyono turned her head and suddenly smiled. She used a toothpick to pick up a meatball. "Try it." Ah, thank you." Toru Watanabe took a bite. "How's the taste?" "The taste of love." "Love?" Rin Kiyono was stunned. "It's spicy and choking. You're tearing up. Isn't this like love? You're in pain and happy at the same time?" Toru Watanabe wiped the tears from the corner of his eyes with the back of his hand. Chinyi Rin rubbed his chin and said, "To think that you can taste the taste of love when you eat wasabi. Humans are truly incredible. I still need to observe and study them more carefully." She turned around and picked up another octopus meatball. Toru Watanabe hurriedly took 2 steps back. No, it's not that important. Actually, I joined the blowing club because I wanted to use the music room. The original oboe club member was indeed a member of the resistance against you. Why can't these people work harder?" Rin Kiyono ate the octopus meatball in her hand. Toru Watanabe blinked. "Nothing." Rin Kiyono followed his gaze and looked down at the toothpick in her hand. "You mean this? I saw that you're so spicy, so I wanted to give you a normal taste to ease the tension. But you seem to cherish love very much." "Of course, I'm loyal to Mickey." "Tell this kind of lie to your Mickey." After school, Rin Kiyono continued her selection on an evening when the rain stopped and the sunset dyed the corridor red. In the end, more than 60 people joined the club of more than 80 people. The number of people was enough. The only problem was the oboe. Although Toru Watanabe was also an oboe, it would take at least another year for him to reach the level of being able to play the instrument. As for using the 30% off intelligence coupon, and spending 30,000 points to become a musical genius, it was impossible. Wouldn't it be better to use it to learn firearms and become a martial arts genius? Or use it on politics and business to prepare for the future when Miki Kujo gave birth to his child and took maternity leave? Wouldn't it be better to take the opportunity to plunder her family property? Or even use it to increase his charm? If his smile didn't work, he could use his eyes. If her eyes didn't work, he could use her nose. There was always something that could poke at Miki Kujo's sexual preference. Now, for a small daily problem, and it was someone else's problem, Toru Watanabe would never use the points that he obtained by risking his life. Moreover, this matter actually only needed Rin Kiyono or Miki Kujo. If one of them took the initiative to ask the principal, even 10 students wouldn't be enough. It's just that Rin Kiyono had her own insistence, and Miki Kujo couldn't wait for the Human Observation Department to close down or offer to become the director. After the selection, everyone gathered in the music classroom. Rin Kiyono stood on the podium. "From today onwards, except for Saturday and Sunday, you must also come to school for training. The blowing club will go home at 9:00 p.m. As soon as she announced, someone immediately stood up. "I have tutoring at 7:00 p.m. We're already in our 3rd year of high school, and we're busy preparing for school. In addition to tutoring, I also have to work at night." In the eyes of outsiders, Kanagawa High School was a school that only talked about deviation, and was useless except for being smart. There were indeed many people who were busy studying, and in the eyes of others, they were introverted people who were not sociable. Rin Kiyono clapped her hands and signaled for everyone to be quiet. "Considering this point, I've already applied to the school for the blowing club to stay in school until 12:00 p.m. I'll also help you with your homework." "You help us? Are you kidding me? Do you think you're so great just because you're first in the first year? Our club also has a 3rd year first." In the face of everyone's doubts, Rin Kiyono's expression didn't change, and she maintained her usual confidence. "Everything is based on facts." Her cold and oppressive voice made everyone subconsciously quiet down. "In addition to the monthly concert at the end of the month, I'll also participate in the 3rd year's exam this month. If I can't get first place, I'll withdraw." At this time, even Toru Watanabe couldn't help but whisper, "Ah." Unlike the others who questioned her strength, He was just amazed at her method of meeting force with force. Didn't this woman know how to be tactful? Did she want to use her strength to shut the other party up? Although she could do whatever she wanted with enough strength, sometimes she needed to use methods other than strength to deal with people's hearts. For example, now, Toru Watanabe took 2 steps forward and said to everyone, "Everyone, just treat this as a learning session." Learning session? That's right. Toru Watanabe nodded. Gathered here are the 3rd year's first place, the 1st year's first place in liberal arts, and the 1st year's first place in science. Although it's a bit arrogant, I still have to say, it's no problem to answer the other members' questions. Don't underestimate the 1st year. Because the content of the exam involved the knowledge of the entire high school, if the 2 of them were to do the 3rd year's exam, not to mention the 1st or 2nd place, they would definitely be in the top 20. However, Rin Kiyono was a bit unhappy that Toru Watanabe took the initiative to claim that she was the 1st in liberal arts, and even placed in front of science. Everyone in the music department was talking about it, but they all looked a bit moved. Also, Toru Watanabe showed an expectant smile. Everyone gathered together in the middle of the night, training until your fingers are sore, and studying until late at night with only the lights in the music room on. Don't you feel that it's very youthful? This was a smile full of magical colors, making people happy and fascinated. People would like the young man's lips, nose, eyes, and finally the young man's entire person because of this smile. It was inconceivable and unreasonable, just like the person you liked, showing an irresistible preference for you. Next, perhaps because of this smile, or perhaps because of Toru Watanabe's words really poked their hearts, they all showed expectant smiles. I support. Mayasahi was the first to speak. I also support. Aoi Ichiki immediately raised her hand. I've long wanted to ask Kiyono classmate and Watanabe classmate about learning methods. I also support. Asako Hanada shyly but firmly raised her hand. Then everyone in the bass department raised their hands. Toru Watanabe nodded gratefully at Mayasahi, and she blinked twice in return. Although it was a very ordinary blink, and her eyes were still as calm as a clear spring, Toru Watanabe felt that she was hinting at something. Could it be an empty classroom in the middle of the night? Toilet? Corridor? That's too exciting. This won't do, senior. Since the 3rd year's #1 senior has agreed, then we should also. Studying together seems like a good idea. It just so happens that I always want to play with my phone and eat snacks at home. If we stay and study together, we can even improve our grades. Me too, it feels so inefficient to study alone. But what if we go back in the middle of the night? Will it be dangerous? We'll go back in a group at night. What's there to be afraid of? Also, you can sleep at my place, or I can go to your place. Now that you say it like that, I'm looking forward to it. It feels like sleeping together. Listening to everyone's discussion, Toru Watanabe proudly looked at Rin Kiyono. Thank you. This sentence was said softly and quickly, and under everyone's voices. Before Toru Watanabe could hear it clearly, Rin Kiyono had already turned her face away. Please remember, we're here to train and study, so be prepared to suffer until you want to die, she said to the excited crowd with a cold face. Now, let's start the training. Chapter 79. Everyone, return to your own classroom. I'll take turns to check. I hope I don't see any of you slacking off. Rin Kiyono's eyes were cold as she ordered them to disperse. In Japan, where relationships between seniors and juniors are highly valued, there's probably no one else other than her who can command more than 60 students with such imposing manner. No, there's also Miki Kujo. But if she's the consultant, will she die? Definitely will. Thinking of this, Toru Watanabe actually felt that Rin Kiyono wasn't that strict. Toru Watanabe couldn't help but sigh as he watched the members of the Wind Instrument Club leave while whispering bad things about Seigo Rin. They didn't know how lucky they were. Toru Watanabe also returned to the oboe bassoon classroom. He put aside the music score that Rin Kiyono gave him. This kind of thing is as far away from him as from Iwate Prefecture to Tokyo. As a newbie among newbies, He didn't even have the chance to do basic training like playing the flute. In short, he first had to play the flute, then the second step was to stabilize the sound of the flute, then the music score. GA. Immersed in the training, time flew by. When Kaoru Hayami called him, it was already 6 o'clock. According to Rin Kiyono's schedule, the next 30 minutes was dinner time. Watanabe-san, what do you want to eat? Kaoru Hayami's voice was very soft. Toru Watanabe didn't know what to eat. With a whistle in his mouth, he thought for a moment. Let's go to the supermarket on campus to see if there's anything to eat. If there's nothing, we'll go to the restaurant at the bus station. It only took 5 minutes to go from school to the restaurant, 10 minutes to go back, 20 minutes to eat was more than enough. Because of the long days and short nights in summer, the sky outside was still bright. The crows on the telephone poles were particularly mournful under the dim setting sun. Toru Watanabe mixed in with the crowd after school. After eating at the restaurant, he returned to the music classroom 10 minutes early to continue practicing. Student Watanabe, do you want to have some snacks to help with digestion? Looking at the smiling Aoi Ichiki, Toru Watanabe asked in confusion, eating snacks to aid digestion? Girls are all like this. Aoi Ichiki smiled mischievously. Let's go. They're all girls. No, I refuse. Why? I'm the only oboe, so I have to work hard. This was, of course, a lie. It was one thing to stay with Kaoru Hayami during training, but he took the initiative to go to the all-female training room during break time. Did he think that Miki Kujo didn't pamper him enough? Furthermore, he had to put in a lot of effort to get Kujio Miki to let him go this time, even though he was bragging like a duck. However, Toru Watanabe did not hate hard work. Whether he was forced or not, since he had to learn, he would learn seriously. Just like Spanish and English, these only made him better, and it was a means to train his learning ability. As for whether it would be useful in the future, he did not care. Aoi Ichiki was helpless, she pouted and said, okay. A little after 8 o'clock in the evening, Rin Kiyono came to the oboe bassoon section with a laptop in her hand. She simply nodded her head as a greeting. Next, please follow me and sing music. Sing music? Toru Watanabe doubtfully repeated this unfamiliar word. Kaoru Hayami softly explained, it refers to the basic training of reading music. It can cultivate the ability to read music and also to produce the correct intervals. Thank you for meeting me so early. Kaoru Hayami replied with a gentle smile. If only my girlfriend had such a personality. Toru Watanabe looked at her face and thought. Kaoru Hayami's appearance was far from Miki Kujo's at 9 o'clock. She was only a little prettier than the average person, but Toru Watanabe liked her gentle personality very much. First, the B tone. Rin Kiyono said, morning classmate, you go first. Okay. Kaoru Hayami nodded and produced a voice that was as high as the one played by the laptop. In this night, her overly soft voice, coupled with a natural hint of sadness, seemed to bring Toru Watanabe back to his mother's arms. Rin Kiyono nodded and looked at Toru Watanabe. Me too. Don't think that I will be merciful to you just because we have a good relationship. Wait, that's not what I meant. I mean, Rin Kiyono interrupted him directly. Don't waste time, there are still 2 parts waiting for me. Okay. After Toru Watanabe finished, she put her hand on her chin and said thoughtfully, Toru Watanabe classmate, you're not good at singing, right? For now. You're tone deaf, and you won't be able to change it in a short time. Rin Kiyono ruthlessly stated the truth. You're affecting my playing of the oboe? No. Even tone-deaf people can still play the correct notes with an instrument. Then why do you have so much nonsense to say? Rin Kiyono's expression turned cold. You're the weakest in the playing section, and your grades are good. I'll help you practice singing during the lesson. Sorry, I have a problem with my attitude. Toru Watanabe felt that he was too familiar with this sentence. Rin Kiyono snorted as if she was throwing a tantrum. There's no point in apologizing. Okay, now you guys play the B note together. 10 minutes later, Rin Kiyono rushed to the next part. "Kiyono classmate, she's very professional," Kaoru Hayami said softly. "She's also very strict," Toru Watanabe responded after being lectured for 10 minutes. Kaoru Hayami recalled the scene just now and couldn't help but laugh, "But I think Kiyono classmate's attitude towards you is very special." "It is very special, and she almost scolded me to death." What Rin Kiyono said to him just now would have made anyone else give up on the road of musical instruments. It was like learning how to drive in a driving school. The most infuriating thing was that every word she said was the truth, which made him find many of his mistakes. Although it was only a short period of instruction, Toru Watanabe felt that he had grasped the knack of grasping the intervals, and he couldn't wait to play it again. But this mentality appeared again and again in the last 10 minutes. Every time he finished playing, Rin Kiyono's poisonous tongue would point out even more mistakes. Could it be that she understands you, which is why she's like this? Understands me? Yeah. Even if she knows that you're being lectured, she won't give up, and will work even harder. That's true. Besides being handsome, smart, gentle, and dedicated, the only thing I have is hard work. Even if Rin Kiyono was present, Toru Watanabe still had the confidence to say this. But he wasn't sure if it was true or not. It should be true, right? Probably. Yeah. Kaoru Hayami tilted his head in confusion, and decided not to continue the topic of Toru Watanabe. "In my opinion, Kiyono classmate knows that even if she scolds you, you won't hate her, and the relationship between the two of you won't deteriorate because of this, so she's so strict with you." That's wrong. That girl doesn't care if other people hate her or not. Is that really the case? Of course. Toru Watanabe put the whistle in his mouth and continued to practice. At 9 o'clock in the evening, the first day of training came to an end. At this time, the school building was so quiet that you could hear a pin drop on the ground. Everyone went to the toilet or went home. Not everyone decided to participate in the study session. Among the people who stayed, many were discussing Rin Kiyono's instruction. Some said that she was good, but most of them were dissatisfied with her overly harsh attitude. Toru Watanabe was washing his hands in the toilet, and he even heard someone crying in the female toilet. This is the right way to be young. Crying hard is better than crying because of abortion. Toru Watanabe comforted the girl in his mind. Just as he was thinking, he suddenly felt someone's gaze on him. Peeking at him was a common occurrence. In the classroom, on the road, in the tram, Toru Watanabe had long been used to it, but this gaze was different. There was no appreciation, no love, no thirst, and instead, there was a sense of hidden bitterness. Toru Watanabe raised his head and looked at the mirror. In addition to a boy who was very popular with girls, there was also a beautiful girl with a good figure and slightly puffed cheeks. Yoshimi Tamamo was standing behind him with a mouthpiece. Toru Watanabe turned off the tap and moved aside. Yoshimi Tamamo pressed the corners of her mouth and glanced at him with a slightly resentful gaze. She went forward to the sink and washed the mouthpiece with water. Toru Watanabe shook the water off his hands as he walked back to the music classroom, thinking that he did not do anything wrong to her. After the break, the study session began. Everyone had a strange feeling in their hearts. The sound of pen writing on paper, and even the sound of clothes rubbing against each other, sounded very loud. At first, some people whispered because of the novelty, but soon everyone was immersed in the study, and they made sounds to ask questions. Kanagawa High School was indeed a group of idiots who only knew how to study. Only Toru Watanabe was asked by Rin Kiyono to repeatedly practice singing before 10 o'clock. In her words, he was tone deaf because he was not familiar with singing. As long as he was familiar with singing, he could at least achieve the minimum of not going out of tune. Of course, don't expect to sing well. There is no other art that values talent more than singing. Rin Kiyono's proud expression made Toru Watanabe so angry that he almost gave himself a point of intelligence on the spot. During the study session, Toru Watanabe was the most popular teacher. After all, the music club was a girls' club. As a handsome and beautiful boy, it was difficult for him not to be popular. Moreover, compared to Miyazaki and Rin Kiyono, he was simply too easy to talk to. His knowledge was also enough to answer questions, so there was no reason for others not to ask him. However, the single-minded Toru Watanabe's attitude was absolutely professional. He would never do anything wrong to Miki Kujo. At 11:30, everyone left the school together. "Do you want me to send you back?" Toru Watanabe took the initiative to ask Rin Kiyono at the shoe cabinet. Being reprimanded at a club activity was one thing. After all, the two of them had a good relationship and were good opponents. Toru Watanabe did not want anything to happen to her. Rin Kiyono looked at him suspiciously. She pressed her hands on her collar and took a step back. "Watanabe-san, I admit that I'm beautiful to the point that all men want to commit crimes. But you're smart, so you should know what you can do and what you can't do. Please think about your parents. If they knew that you were in prison for molesting a female classmate, I'm not interested in you. You took the initiative to touch me, so I have to think about it." "Oh." This is the first time I've heard the truth so infuriating. Rin Kiyono loosened her collar. "Then, I'll have to trouble you." Toru Watanabe looked at her tightly pursed lips, shy expression, and her slightly blushing face. He came to a conclusion in his heart. Girls are definitely cunning creatures. Because, if Rin Kiyono asked him again, he might not have the confidence that, "I'm not interested in you," was the truth. At night, Shinjuku was still lively. Young people with dyed hair could be seen everywhere at the crossroads. There were also office workers in suits and leather shoes who worked overtime until late at night. "Is there a way to deal with Ritsuko Sato?" Toru Watanabe asked softly on a secluded path with unknown wildflowers. Ritsuko Sato, a member of the resistance army, was the only person in the band who could play the oboe. Rin Kiyono shook her head. "I'll try to recruit new members. Maybe there are still students in the school who can play the oboe. But Kiyono-san, you have to be careful. If you really do this and still don't solve the problem, I'm afraid that Ritsuko Sato will become even more fearless. At that time, she might embarrass you. You should be concerned about me, right? I obviously treated you like this today. Watanabe-san is really gentle and considerate." Rin Kiyono turned her head to look at him and said teasingly, "What the hell are you thinking about? I mean, instead of letting a passerby embarrass you, it's better to let me do it." After that, Toru Watanabe paused for a moment. Suddenly, a couple hugging each other appeared on the road. Under the dim yellow streetlights, the two people's shadows were not as wide as Toru Watanabe's. After silently distancing himself from the couple, Toru Watanabe continued, "Casino-san, if you're at your wit's end, all you have to do is put on your shaman costume and wait for me in the club classroom. I'll come and help you. It's okay to fall asleep on the road, but if you're dreaming, I suggest you lie in bed. Remember, it's the witch uniform. Don't wear the wrong one." It seems that Watanabe-san's ears are also not good. Rin Kiyono rubbed her temples. "I remember that the Kujo family has a few hospitals. Let your Miki take you for a checkup and let her wear the witch uniform for you." You're not cute at all." "I'm not cute? There's no bigger lie than that. I'm talking about your personality. Your personality is also perfect." Toru Watanabe was really speechless. I think you should go to the hospital to check for cognitive impairment. Cognition is the intelligent processing process of the body's recognition and acquisition of knowledge. It involves learning, memory, language, thinking, spirit, emotions, and a series of random, psychological and social behaviors. Cognitive impairment refers to abnormalities in the brain's high-level intelligent processing process related to learning, memory, thinking and judgment, resulting in serious learning and memory impairment, accompanied by changes such as aphasia, apraxia, agnosia, or dyslexia. The basis of cognition is the normal function of the cerebral cortex. Any factor that causes abnormalities in the cerebral cortex's function and structure can lead to cognitive impairment. Due to the complexity of the brain's function, and the different types of cognitive impairment are interrelated, that is, a cognitive problem in one aspect can lead to cognitive abnormalities in another or more aspects. For example, if a patient has deficits in attention and memory, they will have problems solving problems. Therefore, Under Rin Kiyono's cold gaze, Toru Watanabe decided not to be too harsh on girls. One must be strict with oneself and treat others with leniency. He never allowed himself to rely on his appearance to make a living, but he didn't object to others relying on their appearance to make a living. After a long paragraph of knowledge from Wikipedia, the two of them arrived at Rin Kiyono's apartment. "Thank you for sending me back." "No problem. Good night." "Good night." Rin Kiyono stood in front of the apartment and watched Toru Watanabe's back gradually disappear under the streetlight. She only turned around and went upstairs when she couldn't see him anymore. Chapter 80. At 6:30 a.m. on Saturday morning, Toru Watanabe finished his run and his gymnastics. Considering that he had to spend the whole day with the girl, he took a shower and changed into clean underwear. He took the 7 a.m. tram to Shiya Station. Leaning against the door, he thought to himself, going out often might be one of the best ways to become more beautiful. Because one had to pay attention to one's image, not to mention bathing frequently, trimming one's nails, and putting on makeup, just straightening one's back subconsciously would change one's temperament over time. Of course, lazy people were not included in this list, but they also lived more freely. While Toru Watanabe was lost in his thoughts, the tram drove into Shiya Station. There was no one on the ramp from the station to Kamigawa. Toru Watanabe took out his phone and took a selfie with himself and the ramp. Toru Watanabe. First day of early training for Miki. Miki. Good girl. Your debit card has been transferred 1 million yen to your account at 7:13 a.m. on June 22nd. Your balance is 102105652 yen. Toru Watanabe. Was he short of this 1 million yen? Although the 100 million yen in his card was obtained because of Miki Kujo. But what was the use of having so much money? The only thing Toru Watanabe wanted to do now was to transfer money to his parents so that they could relax a little. But it was not easy to explain the source of the money. If he did not explain it clearly, it would only make the elders worried. Toru Watanabe changed into indoor shoes in an empty shoe cabinet. He covered his mouth with his hand and yawned as he walked to the music classroom. When he reached the second floor, the soft sound of a musical instrument came from the distant overhead corridor. It was a very deep bass horn. Currently, Mayasahi was the only person in Kamikawa Yukibu who could play this kind of instrument. Mayasahi was very beautiful, especially her watery eyes, which always reminded Toru Watanabe of the clear streams that flowed down from the mountains in his hometown. Not only was her playing ability high, but she was also beautiful. Even her academic results were the best among the third grade. This was closely related to the fact that she had arrived earlier than Toru Watanabe. Outstanding people were actually better at making use of time. In other words, only those who were better at making use of time could become outstanding people. Toru Watanabe went directly to the corridor on the 5th floor, put his bag on the ground, and took out the oboe officially named Black Duck from the instrument box. A long note that was not in tune was accompanied by a trumpet that echoed in the deserted schoolhouse in the early morning. Just as Toru Watanabe was engrossed in his practice, Mayasahi came to his side and looked at him with her clear eyes. "Senpai Asahi." Toru Watanabe was shocked. He didn't even hear the sound of footsteps. Mayasahi nodded silently, her naturally hanging bangs swayed gently, like the grass by the stream, natural and refreshing. "Good morning." Toru Watanabe didn't know what to say. Thinking of the last two things, he felt a little embarrassed. "Good morning." After a near whisper of greeting, Mayasahi silently stared at Toru Watanabe again. After a while, just as Toru Watanabe was thinking of something to say, her slender and delicate fingers slowly moved up. Then, without saying a word, she began to unbutton her shirt. Toru Watanabe's eyes widened. "Don't get me wrong, this is a surprise, not to see more clearly." "Senpai, what are you doing?" "Wearing blue underwear today." "So that's what my question meant," Toru Watanabe said, but didn't make a move. "People who make a move at this time all want me to help them take off their clothes, right?" Toru Watanabe wasn't that kind of person. "My senpai." A cheerful voice came. Watanabe-san actually came so early? I thought I would be the second. Aoi Ichiki walked over with cheerful steps. The heavy trumpet in her arms didn't seem to weigh her at all. At that moment, Toru Watanabe clearly saw a flash of dissatisfaction in my Asahi's clear eyes. Itsuki-san, for your own good, really for your own good, please appear at the right time next time. Twice now. Toru Watanabe hated it. He wanted to look at the blue sky. Aoi Ichiki pestered my Asahi, who had returned to normal, to do morning exercises together. Toru Watanabe played the oboe to the distant tram from Shiya Station. Because of the carbon dioxide accumulated in his lungs, he felt dizzy for a while. After 8 o'clock, people began to appear in the corridor or the music room one after another. Some were practicing their instruments, and some were loudly reciting English words. After 9 o'clock, almost everyone came. The sound of various instruments mixed together, making a noise worse than the crows on the tennis court. Why were there crows everywhere in Tokyo? The number was so high that the government had to implement relevant measures, including setting up bird nets in garbage collection areas, implementing garbage collection at night, and so on. What can we see from this? There's really a lot of garbage in Tokyo. Yes. At 10 o'clock, Toru Watanabe was tired of practicing. He put his instrument aside, hummed the tune according to the music score, and walked to the toilet. On the way, he met Rin Kiyono, who came out of the trombone section. She smiled with appreciation after hearing his song, "You've improved, it's less unpleasant than yesterday." She made a 1 centimeter distance between her thumb and forefinger. Are you mocking me? Toru Watanabe, who could barely be considered a fan of 2D, knew the joke of the finger universe. Rin Kiyono tilted her head in confusion. She didn't know why someone would be angry after being praised by someone as excellent as her. Nothing. I'm going to the toilet, want to come with me? Toru Watanabe invited. Okay. Rin Kiyono nodded in agreement. So the two of them walked to the toilet together, and Toru Watanabe continued to hum the music score. A little higher here, like this. Rin Kiyono's soft lips opened slightly, and a bright and pleasant voice reached Toru Watanabe's ears. Do you understand? Toru Watanabe imagined her voice in his mind and hummed. Make the middle note longer. Toru Watanabe hummed again. Can your anger only come out in waves? Make it longer. The two of them walked to the toilet and separated at the sink. When Toru Watanabe came out to wash his hands, he heard from the female toilet, "That arrogant first year." There were also curses. How dare you belittle our strength as if it's worthless, saying that we've wasted 3 years of practice, and that it's better to learn from scratch. Then the voices stopped abruptly, and Rin Kiyono came out of the toilet. She calmly washed her hands in front of Toru Watanabe, and then used a white handkerchief to wipe it clean. On the way back to the music room, Toru Watanabe asked, Are you okay? I'm not here to make them like me. As long as they participate in the training and successfully enter the national competition, it's enough. You're really amazing. Toru Watanabe admired her strength from the bottom of his heart. I'm only a first year, but I have the ability to guide them, and every word I say hits their weakest point, so it's natural for them to hate me. It's not something that can be easily changed with a better attitude and a more tactful tone. At this point, Toru Watanabe understood Rin Kiyono's personality a little, and knew that she didn't care what others thought of her. He changed the topic and asked, Can you really enter the national competition? No one can stop me from moving forward. Rin Kiyono's answer was very characteristic of her. Overly narcissistic. Chapter 81. During the lunch break, Toru Watanabe took the initiative to leave the music classroom. He planned to go to the Human Observation Department and take a nap on the sofa, but Rin Kiyono was there, listening to the performance of the famous blowing school. Thinking that it was impolite to sleep in front of someone who was working hard, he went to the field to find Osamu Kanai. Although he was only a reserve member, this guy was working hard for the Koshian qualifiers in July. Watanabe? You're just in time, hurry up. Before Toru Watanabe could react, Osamu Kunai gave him a pair of baseball gloves and a ball. "What are you doing? Please come and be my pitcher and train with me," Osamu Kunai said as he turned around and walked to the strike zone. After being asked to train by his good friend, Toru Watanabe couldn't say that he was taking a nap. If he had known, he wouldn't have come and just went back to the classroom to sleep. He turned around and found the pitcher's mound, walked over unenthusiastically, and put on the baseball gloves that were the right size. "Come on. Dai-na, throw your last ball." Osamu Kunai, who was in a striking position, shouted at Toru Watanabe. "Sorry, I'm playing from the card, not Ultraman." Because the distance between the strike zone and the pitcher's mound was 18.44 meters, Toru Watanabe subconsciously said it in a normal voice, but it didn't reach him. But it didn't matter, Toru Watanabe would defend the face of the card. "The winning rule has been determined." Toru Watanabe shouted this time. "Huh? What are you talking about?" Toru Watanabe took advantage of Osamu Kunai's confusion to throw the ball, but it was still easily hit by his opponent. "The ball is too slow," Osamu Kunai shouted. Toru Watanabe rubbed his arm, which was a little uncomfortable after using all his strength, and reflected on himself. Sure enough, the creation of the law of victory is unreliable. Speaking of which, this guy is famous for being defeated. Thinking about it again, Toru Watanabe reached into the basket and took out a new ball. Your father. Go." Toru Watanabe threw the ball at the top of his game. Bang! The metal bat hit the ball with a crisp sound, and then the ball flew straight into the blue summer sky. "It's impossible for Dai-na to win. Give up and become light with me." Osamu Kunai waved his baseball bat proudly. "Burn your life force." Bang! "Showtime." Bang! "Die." "There's no such line." "Stop trying to fish in troubled waters." "Shut up. It's fake." "Aren't you playing with a qualified card face?" "Let me punish you." "Sacrifice yourself for the greater good," Osamu Kunai said as he waved his bat with all his might. A beautiful home run was born. In the music classroom, a few girls were chatting by the window about boring topics. "Did you know? Tomoko from the dance club next door is dating Bienzo." "Bienzo? Who are you talking about?" "It's that handsome blonde guy from Year 3 Class 3. The one who secretly gets ear studs, the one who's always taking videos with a camera. He's so beautiful, you know? He asked you to take a short video." "Oh, him. Although he's not bad looking, his personality is not my cup of tea." "You're not from the Appearance Association?" "Shallow." Yoshimi Tamamo pretended to be disdainful, and everyone laughed meaninglessly. "That's great. I want a boyfriend too." Look." Everyone followed her line of sight. Under the June afternoon sun, the girls would never leave the indoor temperature unguarded. Two boys were hitting a baseball on the baseball field. The person in the hitting zone was shouting something at the pitcher's zone, and then it was obvious that the pitcher had taken advantage of his unpreparedness to throw the ball in his hand with a swing of his arm. Through the window, the slightly distorted light shone on the pitcher. Because of the large swing of his arm, the iron-straight white shirt was wrinkled, and his handsome face shone brightly, making people unable to take their eyes off him. Suddenly, perhaps because it was hot, or because it was convenient for him to exert force, the pitcher boldly unbuttoned the 3 buttons on his collar. His collarbone and fair chest were all exposed. The girls looked and looked, and for some reason, they felt a little breathless. When they came back to their senses, they looked at each other and lowered their eyes in embarrassment. "Watanabe classmate is so handsome." "Hee, don't tell me you like him?" "He has a girlfriend, and it's a rich lady." "No such thing, I just admire his looks." "Oh, really? Why did you look away?" "If Watanabe breaks up with Kujo classmate and takes the initiative to confess to me, it's not impossible for me to go out with him." "How dare you say that? You actually want him to confess?" The girls laughed again, but this time Yoshimi Tamamo didn't laugh. She looked at Toru Watanabe on the field, and her hand unconsciously stroked the trombone in her arms. "But I found a secret. Watanabe might be secretly being sweet with the rich lady behind Kujo's back. The rich lady was a derisive nickname for Rin Kiyono in the trumpet club. That's impossible, right? Why not? In the past 2 days, I saw the two of them walking together several times, even going to the toilet together. Do you believe it? Also, Watanabe sent the rich lady home yesterday. Isn't that too timing? That's terrible, as expected. Handsome guys are all bad, right, Haomei? I don't know if he's a handsome guy, but Toru Watanabe is definitely a scumbag. Wow. This is the first time I've seen Haomei target someone like that. This is also the first time I've heard Haomei say that about a guy. However, although he's a scumbag, if he's willing to turn over a new leaf and promise to only treat me well in the future, it's not impossible to go out with him. Annoying. Handsome guys are justice. Isn't it because he's interested in someone else's body? What a perverted declaration. The girls laughed again. The 1-hour lunch break quickly passed, and Toru Watanabe reeked of sweat. He was too embarrassed to go back to the oboe and bassoon section, so he went to the human observation section's activity room. The cold air in the room instantly made him come back to life. Rin Kiyono was listening to music attentively when she suddenly smelled the stench of sweat and frowned slightly. She took off one of her earphones and looked at Toru Watanabe from head to toe. Running. Toru Watanabe didn't really want to talk, so he waved his hand weakly. Baseball. If your hands are sore the next day, it's completely self-inflicted. I won't allow you to take leave and stop training. How heartless. But don't worry, I've been training regularly, so this amount of exercise isn't a problem at all. That's good. Rin Kiyono put on her earphones again and immersed herself in the world of music. Toru Watanabe rested for a while and took grapes from the fridge to eat. As he ate, he stared blankly at the sky outside the window. Suddenly, he slapped the table. Rin Kiyono was startled, and her shoulders trembled. What are you doing? There was a hint of anger in her voice. Toru Watanabe swallowed the grape. I was wondering why I kept losing, so it's because I didn't shout, transform, at the beginning. Rin Kiyono was puzzled. It's like this. Forget it, I'll show you. Toru Watanabe stood up, circled his slim waist, and took out his phone. Remember, the transformation password is 555. If you press 5821, you'll summon a motorcycle. I don't have dreams, but I can protect them. Transform. Rin Kiyono looked at him without any fluctuation in her eyes. Cough. Toru Watanabe coughed, sat down, and reached out to pluck a grape. Rin Kiyono slowly retracted her emotionless gaze and continued listening to the music. Chapter 82. After a week of intensive training, Toru Watanabe still didn't see a single member of the resistance army in the activity room. There was also no news of new members being recruited on the bulletin board of the club building. Rin Kiyono's teaching skills were very high, but because she was too straightforward and strict, she became more and more hated by the people in the wind department. Toru Watanabe moved the oboe away from his mouth and turned the page of the music sheet. Before practicing the next long note, he opened his mouth and asked Kaoru Hayami. Hayami-senpai, can I ask you a question? Kaoru Hayami replied with her gentle voice, her hand writing something on the music sheet. Those people, why did they refuse to train? Kaoru Hayami looked up at Toru Watanabe in confusion. Kiyono classmate didn't tell you. She didn't. Toru Watanabe thought for a moment and remembered a break this week, but the people in the base department told me, but I wasn't interested at the time, so I didn't listen carefully. Watanabe classmate's personality is really bad. Kaoru Hayami chuckled. I'm a very single-minded person, so I don't care about things that I'm not interested in. I'm talking about the fact that you didn't listen carefully. That. Toru Watanabe couldn't explain. He couldn't say that he was attracted by Rin Kiyono's long hair at that time, right? He admitted that he wasn't a person who was honest on the outside and didn't have the habit of telling the truth like Rin Kiyono. But even Rin Kiyono wouldn't answer all questions honestly. "I'm sorry." He sincerely apologized. "Don't apologize to me, apologize to the bass section." Hajime Kaoru gently lectured and told Toru Watanabe about what happened with the trumpet section. The reason was simple. Those who refused to participate in the training felt that it was shameful to be coached by a junior like Rin Kiyono. After Rin Kiyono's superb performance, not only did this mentality not subside, but it also intensified. The jealousy of humans. Also, the level of the special performance department was very low. If they entered the Tokyo University tournament under her guidance, their results would be considered Kanagawa High Schools. But in school, would they be considered part of the special performance department or part of the human observation department? There are all kinds of people in the world. Toru Watanabe sighed. They'd rather be decadent to the end than accept help from people who are younger than them or people they hate. They're everywhere. Sure. Kaoru Hayami gently placed his index finger on his lips. Some of the members of the wind department are still in contact with those who have left. Don't spread bad rumors. Don't worry, I know. Toru Watanabe nodded. In order to become stronger, he didn't mind learning from people who weren't as good as him or people he hated. But he didn't force his own values onto others, which was one of his rules of survival. But his starting point wasn't any kind of noble character. Rather, it was an ordinary person's mentality that other people's business has nothing to do with me. The sound of rain could be heard outside the window. The honeymoon period between the Mayu season and Tokyo was still ongoing. Sweat was stuck to the window. Toru Watanabe put the whistle in his mouth and breathed in. The instrument slowly produced a long note that was still out of tune. The matter with the wind department was very troublesome. The chances of Rin Kiyono unlocking the Miko costume were much higher. He thought about the master-level photography in the mall. Before disbanding at 6 o'clock, Rin Kiyono informed all the wind department that they would perform their first ensemble in the evening. The members of the bass department were eating dinner in the training room. Masahi and Asako Hanada brought their own lunchboxes. Aoi Ichiki bought sandwiches and juice from the convenience store. Everyone else had rice balls of various flavors. Looks like our basic training has reached the standard. That's great. Aoi Ichiki cheered while holding a sandwich. Maybe it's because the scheduled performance is coming up, so we have no choice but to perform together. Asako Hanada picked up an egg with her chopsticks. No, that's impossible, right? What do you think about Milady's personality? A member of the tuba department said. Thinking about Rin Kiyono's strict attitude, Aoi Ichiki said helplessly, okay. But as long as we can perform together, it's fine. I'm so annoyed with the constant basic training. Senior Mai, what do you think? Both are fine. Aoi Ichiki was already used to Masahi's indifference, so she said to herself, everyone has been working very hard during this period of time. When we perform together, I'm sure Kiyono-san will be shocked. I'm really looking forward to it. Aha, Asako Hanada nodded cutely. When Toru Watanabe returned to the music room after the break, he saw that many people were shifting their seats. The woodwinds were in the front, while the brass instruments were in the back. The percussion instruments were in the corner to ensure that everyone could see the conductor. Toru Watanabe didn't want to participate in the ensemble. As a newbie, he couldn't even steadily play a long note, let alone play according to the score. The oboe was simply too difficult. Since he didn't want to participate, according to his personality, he should have stayed in the training room to practice. However, this was his first time performing together after a long period of basic training under Rin Kiyono's guidance. He wanted to listen to their performance from the side. It was almost July. If they didn't make any significant progress, Kamikawa Yukibu would almost directly give up on the Tokyo University competition. At 7 o'clock, Rin Kiyono stepped into the music room on time. She placed the documents in her hands on the table and looked around at everyone. Start tuning. Niwa-san, sorry to trouble you. Yes. Niwa Yuki was the first clarinet student. After the clarinet played a note, the other instruments followed her lead. In the absence of the oboe, the task of tuning was also given to the clarinet. After a simple period of basic training, Rin Kiyono raised her baton. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. As soon as she finished her cold voice, the percussion instruments immediately began to play. The rhythm gradually rose, and the brass instruments followed, making an imposing sound. Then came the woodwinds. Everyone followed the baton and played their roles step by step. The music exuded a vigorous vitality. Toru Watanabe felt as if he could see a line of honor guards. It was incredible. They had improved so much in such a short time. Just like Toru Watanabe, the members of the trumpet section were happily discussing with each other after the performance. Not bad. It was very smooth. It felt like a performance. Wow. There was no sound this time. If I want to do it, I should be able to. Toru Watanabe looked towards the commander's seat, but Seino Rin didn't seem satisfied at all. Saxophone, she said. Miss, are you going to praise us? The girl in the saxophone section smiled and replied. Who was off tune? Huh. Stand up. Rin Kiyono said coldly. The atmosphere suddenly became cold. The music room was so quiet that the sound of the tram could be heard in the distance. Toru Watanabe held his breath. My dear minister, you should at least praise us before you ask questions. Toru Watanabe thought helplessly. I've never heard of it before. You want both a whip and candy? A girl whispered. What's wrong with her? She's so arrogant. She's obviously improved a lot. She's just used to preaching. We have to prove that we're not as good as her. Under Rin Kiyono's cold gaze, the saxophone section was as silent as a pool of stagnant water. Starting from verse 7, she turned the music sheet to the front and said, Play the saxophone sections one by one. Hiss. Many people in the room gasped. Those who were still talking about it also shut their mouths, but their eyes were filled with dissatisfaction. Mayama-san, you first. Before Rin Kiyono could finish her sentence, a girl in the saxophone section lowered her head and raised her hand high. Rin Kiyono glanced at her and said, Kitahara, I hope that you won't practice anything else until you don't go off tune. Yes. Trombone. The people in the trombone section immediately held their breaths. Toru Watanabe noticed that Yoshimi Tamamo's eyes were unblinkingly waiting for Rin Kiyono to continue. Verse 162. You have to raise your voice a bit and be more agile. Yes. The entire trombone section breathed a sigh of relief. Although there was a problem with the entire section, it was much better than being singled out. Yoshimi Tamamo put the trombone on the ground, picked up a red pen, and wrote down Rin Kiyono's words on the music sheet. Itsuki. Yes. Aoi Ichiki instantly straightened her back. Can you do it without dragging tomorrow's classmate down? Rin Kiyono completely ignored the friendship between the two of them. If the next practice is still at this level, I'll consider only letting tomorrow's classmate play a solo. Aoi Ichiki's face turned pale. Next, Rin Kiyono repeated the other 8 sections except for the oboe and bassoon. The cheerful atmosphere of the performance suddenly disappeared in the night, and the rain brought a chill. Even the observing members of Group B subconsciously kept quiet. At 9 o'clock, the ensemble practice ended, and everyone tacitly cancelled today's study session. Rin Kiyono locked the door of the Human Observation Department's activity classroom and said to Toru Watanabe, who was waiting at the door, You don't have to send me off today. Okay. The two of them changed their shoes, went out of the school gate, and sat on the bench on the platform to wait for the tram. Is this really okay? What? After all, you're not a real consultant. If you're too strict, it'll cause a backlash sooner or later, and you'll be hated. Toru Watanabe didn't say one more thing. There were so many people in the music section, and there would always be someone who liked to talk nonsense. Soon, Rin Kiyono's image in the school would plummet, and he would be ignored, criticized, and so on. I don't care. Kiyono, Toru Watanabe looked at the lit vending machine in the dark. Maintaining basic interpersonal relationships can make things go smoothly. It's the same with strength. Toru Watanabe smiled helplessly. You're really stubborn. I call this stubbornness. Are you copying me? Toru Watanabe turned his head. Rin Kiyono brushed her long hair that was messed up by the wind and said with a smile, You don't think that you're the only one who secretly learns other people's strengths, right? Although whether this counts as a strength or not is still up for debate. You're really amazing. Toru Watanabe looked into her eyes. I found it a little slow, but my tolerance is as deep as the Thousand Islands Trench, so forgive your slowness. I'm talking about your persistence in not lying, and your lack of interpersonal relationships. Toru Watanabe looked at the vending machine again. This is my biggest strength. I like myself very much. Rin Kiyono's tone was extremely frank, without the slightest hesitation. The cheap and bright light of the vending machine attracted countless moths and unknown insects. There were few people who had a good relationship with each other, but even if they didn't like each other, almost everyone would squeeze out a smile. It was a bit like a rice ball that wasn't completely heated in a microwave, hot on the outside and cold on the inside. Toru Watanabe truly admired Rin Kiyono. Living like her was definitely a painful thing for ordinary people. He didn't intend to persuade her, because, I also like this about you. Ah, you finally fell in love with me? I've only used 12 methods. I mean, I admire your personality, Toru Watanabe said in a huff. You're a hard man to deal with. Rin Kiyono sighed helplessly. Sometimes it's cuter to follow a human's instinctive desires. I never knew that a human's instinctive desire was to fall in love with you. Just then, the tram rolled into the station, bringing with it a cool breeze. Kiyono. Yes. You owe me a witch costume. What nonsense are you talking about again? I might not be able to stop lying in this lifetime, but I can protect the only person who won't lie. Again? The transformation password this time is 666? Or 444? The transformation password this time is real, so I won't tell you. Toru Watanabe said with a smile. You're not lying? Rin Kiyono was shocked. She frowned and thought. Watanabe, you really need to go to the psychiatry department to have your head checked. My family's sanatorium can let you stay for free. We'll talk about this when I'm old. Toru Watanabe walked into the last carriage before the tram door closed. The tram carried him into the darkness. Used intelligence exchange coupon to exchange for 1 intelligence. Intelligence exchange coupon used. Deducted 30,000 points. Toru Watanabe used the intelligence exchange coupon that was given to him by Miki Kujo this month. It was worth 100,000 points of intelligence, but it only cost 30,000 points. Please select a specific specialty. Philosophy. Logic. Religion. Ethics. Literature. Chinese literature. Sign language translation. Sango language. Slovenian. Physics. Nuclear physics. Energy chemistry. Astronomy. Space science and technology. Disaster prevention and mitigation science and engineering. Engineering. Vehicle engineering. Welding technology and engineering. Artificial intelligence. City underground space engineering. Medicine. Maternal and child health. Acupuncture and massage. Chinese herb cultivation and identification. Agronomy. Pesticides and fertilizers. Gardening. Aquaculture. Military science. Windows popped up crazily in the tram like a computer infected with a virus. It was useless even if he closed his eyes. Toru Watanabe almost fainted. This stupid system wasn't smart at all. He quickly shrank it. He slightly eased the dizziness and forgot all the information that he saw just now. Toru Watanabe found Art Studies in a long section of the table of contents. When he clicked on it, an even longer section appeared. Art theory, music, dance, drama, film, art, design. He clicked on music, and the directory popped up again. Voice singing, keyboard, various ethnic instruments, orchestral instruments, conducting, duets, choral singing, piano, music theory, solfeggio, world music history, traditional music theory, essay writing, harmony, polyphony, musical form. He clicked on orchestral instrument performance and conducting, and the directory popped up again. Something was wrong. Something was very wrong. Hey, it can't be like this, right? Why do other systems only need a bit of music to be proficient in all instruments? They can even sing and dance, and even compose lyrics and music? Why is it so detailed when it comes to me? The system didn't respond. It might be a dead object, or it might be saying, everything you want to say is put in those 1,000 rules, and the last one is, all interpretation rights belong to the game. Toru Watanabe had no other choice. After searching for a long time, he finally found oboe in the corner. In the time he spent searching, the tram had arrived at the station. Toru Watanabe held up his umbrella and walked towards the rental house. He just remembered that he was free, so he opened the character panel. Character, Toru Watanabe, age, 15, intelligence, 8, music, oboe, charm, 10, smile, beautiful charm, gentle, stamina, 5, items, 50% off intelligence coupon *1, charm coupon *2, 30% off above 10 points, 30% off below 10 points. Skills, encyclopedic knowledge, kickboxing, master, self-discipline, points, 254,000. Money, $121,155,652. Event reward, 5,000 points, master level, piano purchase authority. Sign in, Miki Kujo, 38 days, self-discipline? Toru Watanabe was even happier than when he received the 100 million reward. This was the first skill recognized by the system that he had trained himself. Chapter 83. Stop. Rin Kiyono's hand clenched in the air, and the grand ensemble in the music classroom instantly fell silent. She expressionlessly flipped through the sheet music. Bass horn, the secondary melody at the beginning of the 41st bar, will be played by classmate Asaka. Also, clarinet, I already said that it has to be more lively here. Can you do it next time? Kitahara classmate, were you really practicing yesterday? Please practice until you can do it. Take a 10-minute break, and practice on your own. Rin Kiyono announced the end of the class, picked up the documents on the table, and prepared to return to the Human Observation Department's activity classroom. Kiyono classmate. Kaoru Hayami called out to her. What's the matter, Hayami classmate? Rin Kiyono stopped and stood in place, waiting for him to come over. Watanabe classmate didn't come to the club today. Do you know what happened? He asked for a leave of absence for July's monthly test. Kiyono classmate, you agreed? Kaoru Hayami was a little surprised at first, and then said to himself, that's right, Watanabe classmate is a newbie, so he doesn't need to play. The monthly test was a small test, and the school didn't have a rule to stop the club activities a week in advance. But even if there was a rule to stop, clubs like the wind instrument department that were about to participate in the competition during the summer would secretly practice by themselves, so it was impossible for them to take the initiative to ask for a leave of absence. Toru Watanabe was an exception. He was a newbie oboe, and oboe was notoriously difficult in orchestral music, so it was impossible for him to play a complete score before the Eastern Kyoto competition. Is there anything else? Rin Kiyono reminded the absent-minded Kaoru Hayami. At this time, the music classroom was already filled with discussions. Too arrogant, they really think they're consultants. Even the consultants didn't criticize us like that. They obviously played very well, but they didn't even praise them. I don't want to be praised by the first years. So disgusting. All the whispers were directed at Qing Yiling, who had a calm expression on his face. Kaoru Hayami had an apologetic expression on his face. He felt sorry for stopping Rin Kiyono and letting her hear the criticism of the club members. I'm sorry, Kiyono. Rin Kiyono shook his head as if nothing had happened. If there's nothing else, I'll leave first. Please practice well and see your classmates soon. As she closed the sliding door, she glanced at Aoi Ichiki, who was being comforted by the bass section. There, Mayasahi continued to practice expressionlessly. Time dragged on to the last day of June. Lunch break. Class 4's classroom. Watanabe, how did you do this time? I feel like there's nowhere else to get points. What arrogant words. The trio sat in the corner of the classroom and put their desks together for lunch. Tomorrow is the 3-day break. Where are you planning to go? Keisuke Saito asked. No. Osamu Kunai pulled up the collar of his uniform to let the wind in as he ate. The baseball section is going to train. Oh, then there's no other way. What about you, Watanabe? Keisuke Saito looked at Toru Watanabe, who had just finished his lunch. I heard that Rin Kiyono is busy training the blowing section. You should be fine, right? Osamu Kunai stopped pulling up his collar. Recently, Rin Kiyono seems to be hated by the senior girls. Do you know what's going on? Who knows? Toru Watanabe said lazily. He folded the plastic bag of bread and reached for the large bottle of wheat tea on the table. He unscrewed the cap and gulped it down. The distinct Adam's apple on his fair neck and the liquid in the bottle shone brightly under the sunlight outside the window. Did you guys have a fight? Other than Mickey, I don't intend to fight with anyone. Toru Watanabe put down the bottle and took out his phone to play games to pass the time. Eek. The two of them looked disgusted. How could you say such sweet words to two single people like us? You're too cruel. After 2 classes in the afternoon, the school organized a major cleaning because of the 3-day break. Because of Rin Kiyono's insistence, the blowing section members delegated the task of cleaning to their classmates and used every minute and second to practice. The cleaning wasn't over yet, but they had already played together twice. Stop. Rin Kiyono's gaze swept across everyone's faces. If we keep this up, she said, we won't even be able to win the gold medal in the Kyoto East competition, let alone the Tokyo University competition, the national. Do you want to fight? The aggressive voice made the atmosphere in the music room drop by 3 degrees. Everyone subconsciously held their breaths. The flute and piccolo third-year student kicked the music stand aside. Student Ishitani, did I say something wrong? Rin Kiyono's expression didn't change, and her tone was exactly the same as usual. Aren't you too arrogant, first year? In the competition, no one cares if you're a first-year or a third-year student. The judges only care about whether your foundation is solid, whether your performance is emotional, the melody. Shut up. The scene froze. The timid girls covered their mouths and noses with their hands and looked at them in fear. Mayasahi looked out of the window at the first-year floor, looking for someone. Her fingers moved up and down according to the music. On the side, Asako Hanada, who was holding the bass cello, looked back and forth between Rin Kiyono and Ishitani. She was worried and wanted to stop the fight, but she was too shy to do so in front of so many people. In the trombone section, Yoshimi Tamamo retracted her gaze and stared at the music score that was getting more and more notes. The first-year students were showing off above the third-year students and even scolding them. How stupid. She flipped the music score to the part where she felt it wasn't smooth. Rin Kiyono wasn't afraid at all. You're not good enough, and you don't want to accept other people's guidance. You only know how to vent your anger because of your age. The classroom door was pulled open with a click, interrupting her. I'm so tired. A handsome boy with an oboe under his arm walked in, rubbing his shoulders. What's going on? He asked with a smile. Toru Watanabe's arrival loosened the tense atmosphere in the classroom. Many girls looked at his face with infatuation and whispered, "Oh no, he's too handsome." Asako Hanada breathed a sigh of relief. With Kun Watanabe here, everything would be fine. Yoshimi Tamamo's long eyelashes trembled, looking up at the smiling boy in front of her. Mayasahi's fingers were a bit lighter as she pressed the bass button. It's none of your business. Hasegawa Haru's tone slowed down a bit. She wanted to be angry with Toru Watanabe, who had a good relationship with Rin Kiyono, but out of a woman's, or human's, instinct, seeing a person with an outstanding appearance, she still subconsciously maintained the basic reserve. "Senior, don't say that, I'm also a member of the blowing section." Toru Watanabe's smile was a bit more brilliant. Hasegawa Haru's anger suddenly dissipated. He continued, "If I knew that the A group's level didn't need to participate in the cleaning, I wouldn't be so tired." A suffocating silence dominated the entire space. Most of the people, including Hasegawa Haru, looked at Toru Watanabe in amazement. Toru Watanabe's expression still didn't change, with a mysterious smile. He rubbed his shoulders, took out the oboe from under his arm, and said to Rin Kiyono on the podium, "Advisor Kiyono, I want to conduct a second interview. The A group's level, I also have it." Rin Kiyono's beautiful little face looked at Toru Watanabe, but before she could speak, Hasegawa Haru's sharp voice came. "This level? You're just a gigolo." "Gigolo? Your instrument was bought by Kujo, right? A country. Well, I admit that I'm very good looking." "You... what?" Toru Watanabe interrupted her again, smiling and spreading his hands. "Hasegawa Senior wants to fight with me? Okay, seeing that you're a senior, born 2 years earlier than me, as a junior, I'll let you fight with both of my hands." His tone was gentle, his smile was charming, and his simple spreading of his hands faintly revealed the style of a beautiful boy, but the atmosphere of the scene suddenly became frightened. In front of so many people, Toru Watanabe's arrogant and contemptuous attitude made Hasegawa Haru lose her mind. Her eyes burned with shame and anger. She hurriedly came over, waving her hand to hit Toru Watanabe's face. "Hasegawa Senior." "Watanabe. Wait." Ugh. Along with Hasegawa Haru's painful groan, the sound of the table and chair being hit, after a commotion, the scene was completely dead. Wasted a little time. Toru Watanabe took back his foot that easily tripped the other side, and said to the stunned Rin Kiyono, "Consultant, let's start the interview, please listen to my performance." Without waiting for Rin Kiyono's consent, in this situation where they didn't know how to end it, Toru Watanabe played the oboe regardless. It was a familiar melody that had been practiced and heard countless times, but because the timbre was too beautiful, the noisy audience had no choice but to hold their breath. The melody was like a gospel singer's voice, gentle and delicate oboe timbre, everyone's heart tightened. The lingering timbre extended infinitely, very clear and transparent, just like the sigh of God. Hasegawa Haru, who was lying on the ground, couldn't help but swallow a mouthful of saliva, her heart trembled, and goosebumps rose. In an instant, the summer air in the classroom was filled with a melodious and sweet rhythm. When the concert hall was so quiet that even the sound of a needle falling on the ground could be heard, everyone reacted. The performance was already over. No one moved, no one spoke. "Qualified?" Toru Watanabe asked. "Pass." Seino Rin responded in a low voice, as if he still hadn't recovered from the performance just now. Toru Watanabe turned his eyes to Hasegawa Haru, and then looked at everyone. "Playing so badly, the performance itself is full of flaws. At this level, you're already making things difficult for the consultant?" Toru Watanabe put his hand in his bangs, patted his forehead, and sighed exaggeratedly. "Forget it, anyway, it's useless for you people to work hard. It's good to recognize the gap between people early." "Watanabe-san." Kaoru Hayami stood up. "Isn't it?" Toru Watanabe opened his arms. "I only practiced for half a month, everyone." His words were light and proud. "You can reach the level of the national competition, what about you? No matter how much you practice, you can only get a bronze reward in the East Kyoto competition. Sorry, it's also possible that the judges saw that Kanagawa High School is more famous, and gave a silver reward that isn't too shameful. Did the truth hurt you? But you know best, whether what I said is true or not." "Watanabe, shut up." The one who interrupted Toru Watanabe was Rin Kiyono. Everyone looked at her in surprise. Toru Watanabe too. Did Rin Kiyono see through his thoughts, so she planned to stop him from continuing? "This won't do." Rin Kiyono's face was cold. "I'm their consultant, I can say whatever I want to them, but I won't allow anyone else to preach. Kiyono classmate. Their voices were full of apology and gratitude. Also, Qing Rin's eyes, which had always been cold, were now burning with passion. I think that as long as all of you work hard, you can enter the national tournament and even win the gold reward. Gasps could be heard in the music classroom. This was the first time Rin Kiyono praised them. Toru Watanabe was obviously speaking for her. In the depths of everyone's hearts, there was an inexplicable surge of warmth. Asako Hanada didn't know if she was happy or embarrassed, but her throat was itching, and she had to say something. Kiyono classmate, the competition. She clenched her small hands and took a deep breath. I'll do my best. Me too. Me too. Toru Watanabe looked at everyone with a look that said, everyone, have some self-awareness, and said to Rin Kiyono perfunctorily, you're the eldest daughter of Kiyono family, whatever you say. This guy. His personality is too bad. Familiar whispers could be heard, but the target was changed to Toru Watanabe. Watanabe classmate, the interview is over. Please sit in the woodwind position. Also, I don't want to see any conflicts between members. Rin Kiyono warned. Yes, yes, yes. Well, it doesn't matter if there are conflicts, or if you hate someone. Don't waste time. Continue with the ensemble. Rin Kiyono looked at Hasegawa Haru, who was being supported by everyone. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4 inch. Stop. Hey. Before Rin Kiyono could open her mouth, Toru Watanabe put his hand on the back of the steel chair and turned around. That saxophone, the one in the middle, yes, the one with the thick legs, it's you. Just now you were out of tune, right? You. Toru Watanabe. Rin Kiyono helplessly shouted. What's wrong? Toru Watanabe turned around. No, miss, pointing out each other's mistakes counts as a conflict between members. Rin Kiyono suppressed her anger and took a deep breath, powerlessly said, it doesn't count, but... Kiyono classmate, Kitahara classmate with the thick legs stood up, I'll play it well. Toru Watanabe powerlessly leaned back on the steel chair. The goal is to not be out of tune, forget it, you guys are just like this, using my own level to ask you guys, sure enough, it's too much. Kitahara's eyes were hazy with tears as she shouted at him, I'll play it well. Okay. Toru Watanabe sat up straight, I believe in you. Kitahara was stunned. Could it be that Watanabe classmate was just encouraging her? The second ensemble. Hey, Kitahara classmate with the thick legs, can you do it or not? And the one at the outermost percussion, your arms are so thick, but you don't have any strength when you hit it, don't tell me you're full of fat? The third ensemble. I can't take it anymore, girl with thick legs, you, and you, to be honest, without you guys, the rest of you might be able to rely on your own abilities, plus my performance, to get the silver reward, no, the gold reward, after all, I'm here. Toru Watanabe. Rin Kiyono glared at him. Sorry, miss. Because I was too angry, I accidentally attacked you. The fourth ensemble. Legs. Toru Watanabe, that's enough. A senior who saw Kitahara crying, stood up and reprimanded loudly. HM? Did I say something wrong? Her legs aren't thick? Or are they not out of tune? How can you say that about a girl? You can say that about me too. Say which part of my performance is not good, or which part is ugly, as long as it's the truth, I won't refute. This, senior with single eyelids, please. You. See, you have nothing to say. Let me tell you my motto. The only way to shut me up is to be better than me in all aspects. Was this his motto? It sounded like a provocation. Kitahara held back the senior who was about to argue. I'll work hard. The senior sat down unwillingly, and the others also shrank back. Although they wanted to give Toru Watanabe a good beating, they were afraid that he would say this buck-toothed classmate, that yellow-toothed classmate, that short-legged classmate, that classmate without a nose. It was too scary. I must definitely get the gold reward to show this guy. With this thought in mind, the day's training in the wind department ended. In the activity classroom of the Human Observation Department, Toru Watanabe dismantled his oboe, put it in his instrument case, and prepared to leave. "You're not sending me off today?" Toru Watanabe looked at Rin Kiyono in surprise. Rin Kiyono looked at the night sky outside the window. "It's almost 12. I don't care." After locking the door, the two walked on the street lit only by streetlights. The night wind blew gently, and occasionally, a car with its lights on drove past. It was so bright that it was hard to open one's eyes. "Thank you for today." Rin Kiyono's words were heard along with the sound of wheels rolling on the road. "You've already seen through my plan. You didn't think it was that secretive, did you? You thought I would misunderstand you?" Toru Watanabe was embarrassed for a second. "Then I didn't stop you, but deliberately went against you?" Rin Kiyono tucked her long hair behind her ears and continued with a smile. "Yeah. Watanabe-san would rather be hated than to help me, so how could I betray you?" Rin Kiyono's lips curved into a beautiful smile. "Is that how you use the word betray?" Rin Kiyono looked at the red light of the traffic lights and stopped in her tracks. "Watanabe-san, aren't you afraid of being hated?" "This is a good thing for me," Toru Watanabe said indifferently. "Being hated will make Miki feel at ease. However, I feel a little bad for attacking girls personally. It's fine if they hate me, but I hope they won't be traumatized. Thick legs, single eyelids. It's hard. Anyway, I'm saying this for you. If they're traumatized, then it's your fault. You'll have to bear this guilt." Rin Kiyono sighed. "Sometimes I can't tell if you're gentle or not." "Of course I'm gentle. I'm saying this because I'm afraid you'll fall in love with me. Don't worry, my love isn't that cheap." However, Rin Kiyono turned her head and looked at Toru Watanabe with a smile. "You've won my friendship. From today onwards, you're my first friend." Her face was clearly illuminated by the passing cars. There was a faint blush on her face. "Can I refuse?" "No." The red light turned green, and Rin Kiyono walked on the zebra crossing with a smile on her face. "By the way, how did you improve the oboe to this level in such a short time?" "Who do you think I am? Toru Watanabe." "No." Toru Watanabe opened his hands against the night wind. "I'm God." "Hey, is there a chance for your Chunibu disease to be cured?" Rin Kiyono-san should be worried about me, right?" His poor imitation made Rin Kiyono unceremoniously reach out her hand to his waist. "Ouch. It hurts, Kiyono-san." "Lies. I didn't use any strength." "It hurts." Rin Kiyono pulled back 2 steps with a cold face. "There's one more thing. I hope that the next time you play, you won't target Kitahara classmate." "Why? Wasn't she out of tune?" "The second time I played, she was no longer out of tune." Toru Watanabe stopped. "You lied to me? What do you think?" Toru Watanabe felt his face begin to heat up. "Then tonight, didn't I lose a lot of face?" Rin Kiyono laughed. "At that time, your performance scared them. They subconsciously thought that you could hear the subtle differences that their ears couldn't. Plus, I didn't expose you, so they won't suspect anything. Don't tell anyone about this," Toru Watanabe warned. "Then Kitahara classmate is too pitiful. If you tell anyone, I'll be the pitiful one." "Don't worry, who told you to be my subordinate, and also my friend?" "You are shy." "People who talk too much usually die miserably." Chapter 84. Ding ding dang, jingle bells. Mickey? 15 minutes left. What 15 minutes? July. Because of the system, Toru Watanabe was very sensitive to the beginning and end of the month. "I told you, I'm going to check on your homework in July." Miki Kujo's voice came from the other side of the phone. Although her tone was lazy, she sounded very energetic. It should be noon where she was. Now, of course, playing the oboe in the middle of the night will disturb the neighbors. That's your business. She was unsurprisingly stubborn. Okay. Give me a moment. Walking south from Toru Watanabe's rental house, near the inner line of the Maruchi-chi line, one could see a moat. Every evening, the riverside would be filled with people walking their dogs and street performers singing sad songs like "Cherry Blossoms Want to See You." In the middle of the night, the moat would only be filled with drunken passers-by or sneaky couples. Halfway through the call, Toru Watanabe switched to video mode. As he walked towards the riverside, he told Miki Kujo all these random things. Miki Kujo was probably on a balcony. The white curtains swayed in the wind. She was lying on a comfortable chair with her eyes closed. Every time Toru Watanabe thought that she was asleep, she would respond with an indifferent mm. Toru Watanabe placed his cell phone on a bench under a tree by the riverside. With the help of the streetlights in the distance, his image in the front-facing camera was a little blurry. His fair face was dyed yellow, but it didn't affect his handsomeness. For the past week, Toru Watanabe had been practicing here every day. This was his usual spot. His finger found the right position and adjusted the sound. Let's begin. Miki Kujo in the cell phone had her eyes closed. She seemed to be asleep. This reminded Toru Watanabe of the time in the concert hall when she was woken up by the sound of the wind ensemble. Toru Watanabe inhaled slightly. As his finger pressed the button, his breath entered the whistle. The solo segment ended. "How is it?" Toru Watanabe asked. "Have you learned it before? Do you think I could afford an oboe in the past? I've never touched any musical instrument other than the flute I used in elementary school." Miki Kujo sneered. "Do you think I'm a fool? Without a foundation, who could learn the oboe in half a month? Not to mention that you have completely surpassed the level of a student. You know it too. It's probably because I have a little bit of talent." Toru Watanabe gestured with his index finger and thumb. Miki Kujo sneered and stared at Toru Watanabe with an expression that said, "Keep making up stories for me." Of course, the most important reason. Yes. It's my unparalleled love for you, Miki. Don't you think it's amazing? Just because I didn't want to disappoint you and wanted to play the best sound for you, I was able to learn the oboe in half a month. Miki Kujo on the screen seemed speechless. She pursed her lips in disgust, then turned her head away as if she couldn't bear to watch any longer. "All right, continue." She waved her hand as if she couldn't be bothered to ask. Toru Watanabe breathed a sigh of relief and continued to play. The soft timbre, the melodious melody, and the beautiful low voice were like the gospel in a Catholic church. The sound of the instrument glided across the surface of the moat and blended into the summer night. Miki Kujo stared at Toru Watanabe's blurry figure on the screen and listened intently. It was as if all the sounds in the outside world had disappeared. In her ears, only the sound of Toru Watanabe's oboe remained. Light swirled in her eyes, and the world was a riot of colors. When the video ended, it was already 1 o'clock in the morning on the 1st of July. Toru Watanabe looked at the 1 hour and 15 minutes of call time and sighed that time had passed so quickly. Toru Watanabe didn't want to show off in front of the high school students, and it didn't give him any pride. What he wanted was for Miki Kujo to be addicted to his music. Just now, the picky Miki Kujo had listened to him carefully for more than an hour, and the satisfaction it brought was indescribable. Toru Watanabe faced the moat and stretched his body. It was late at night, and there was still training tomorrow, but he wasn't in a hurry to go back to shower and sleep. After enjoying the night breeze for a while, until his leg was bitten by a mosquito, Toru Watanabe put his phone in his pocket, picked up his oboe, and slowly returned to his apartment. After showering, Toru Watanabe applied some medicine on the mosquito pack and opened the system. New product. Weather forecast. Weather forecast. With one purchase, you can obtain the global weather for the next 30 days, 100% accuracy. There won't be a situation where you bring an umbrella but it doesn't rain. How boring and random was the system store. Toru Watanabe thought that he was very knowledgeable and had read many novels, but he had never seen a weather forecast in the system store. Other than accidentally disappearing on the sea and avoiding a storm, he couldn't think of anything else that was worth spending 1,000 points to predict the weather. And that damn fruit knife. The more he thought about it, the angrier he got. Out of sight, out of mind, Toru Watanabe swiped down the panel and revealed July's 5 skills. Skills: Beginner, Gambling, 100, Master, Wind Basin Dance, 1,000, Master, Writing, 10,000, Master, Tank Gunner, 100,000. Tank Gunner? What tank? What kind of gunner? Toru Watanabe, who was very knowledgeable, thought a lot when faced with problems. He clicked on the explanation. Tank Gunner. The turret is justice, the caliber is truth, and the accuracy of movement is not based on blind guesses. It was really a tank gunner. Where was he going to find a tank? And it was only a gunner skill. What about a driver? What about a driver? When Toru Watanabe saw the name, he was a little excited. He thought that the system was in favor of harmony, but in fact, it was a skill that he would definitely buy even if he didn't need it at the moment. Beginner level. Gambling was useless. He didn't lack money, and even if he did, he wouldn't be interested in gambling. Master level. Wind Basin Dance. Toru Watanabe checked Wikipedia and found out that the so-called Wind Basin Dance was a folk dance in Toyama Prefecture, Japan. It was said that with the accompaniment of the 3-stringed harp and huchin, the dance was elegant and, to hell with it. Master level. Writing. Without Miki Kujo, Toru Watanabe would seriously consider exchanging for it. In the first place, he wasn't very interested in seducing girls, gaining points, and becoming an all-rounder. Becoming an author, or a light novelist, would give him the freedom to work, rest, and live. He wouldn't have to socialize with other people. It was the ideal life. But in reality, Toru Watanabe didn't have the freedom to choose his career. But he couldn't say for sure. What if the system didn't help him? A few years wouldn't be enough for him to become something. If he really got together with Miki Kujo and insisted on becoming an author, she wouldn't be able to do anything about it. Wait, I'm already the son-in-law of the Kujo family. Why would I still want to live the life of an author with deadlines? Another month of waiting in vain. Toru Watanabe turned off the system and went to sleep. P.S. Sorry, my shoulder hurts so much that I can't sit still. I only have one chapter for today. Chapter 85. Next stop, Shiya Station, Shiya Station. Saihara Zao woke up with a start and rushed out of the car with the instrument case. Just as she stepped on the platform, the door behind her immediately closed. That was close. Just as she breathed a sigh of relief and came back to her senses, she felt a wave of heat. It was July. Even if it was 7 in the morning, the body would feel uncomfortable from the heat if she moved slightly. Quickly go to the music room. Thinking this, she walked out of the ticket gate and started to climb the slope. The music department's holiday practice was from 9 in the morning to 9 in the evening. Today, she came 2 hours earlier than usual. The reason for this? Saihara Zao lowered her head. The girl's legs that extended out from under the plaid pleated skirt were a bit thick. Taking a deep breath, she started to run, the pleated skirt rubbing against her skin from time to time. She rushed up the slope and arrived at the school gate. Walking past the tall oak tree on the field, the sports club members had not arrived yet. The school was quiet and there was not a single person. Very good. I'm the first. Saihara Zao secretly clenched her fist. I must practice that part well today. Although she was sweating from the heat, her steps were very light as she walked into the school building. At this moment, a mellow, gentle, and deep sound came from above her head. It was the bass horn. Someone came earlier than her. Curious, Saihara Zao quickly walked up the stairs. The sound became clearer and clearer, echoing in every corridor of the school building. Arriving at the entrance of the 5th-floor corridor, she peeked outside, only to see the third-year Miyasahi Sr. holding a shiny bass horn, sitting on a steel pole chair. Saihara Zao stared blankly at her nimble fingers on the keys, her slender and smooth legs under the pleated skirt, and her delicate face under her naturally falling black hair. Just like the ice goddess Kaoni. She really could not imagine what kind of boy could calmly stand beside her senior. As for being her boyfriend, husband, and not holding such a perfect senior's waist without any scruples, sleeping on the same bed every day, that level of excellence was already beyond her imagination. If she could become someone like Minato, she would not have been humiliated yesterday. Saihara Zeo took a deep breath, gave up the idea of going back to the music room to turn on the air conditioning, and walked towards Mayasahi. "Good morning, Senior Ming Tian." The sound of the bass horn stopped, and Mayasahi nodded to her. "Tomorrow, senpai, do you come this early every day?" Sakare Kitahara placed the instrument case on the ground. "Yes." "Amazing. I can't get up at all." She took out her saxophone. "Senior, let's practice together?" "I'm going back to the classroom." Am I disturbing you?" Saihara Zawi was so scared that she used honorifics. "Sunday, the sun." "What did you say?" After she asked, Sai Kitahara reacted. "Senior, do you mean that the sun is too bright and you feel hot? You can't sweat." After Mayasahi finished speaking, she walked towards the corridor as if she had made herself clear. Sakare Kitahara looked at the saxophone in her hand, wondering if she had heard wrong. Did he not want to sweat? The blazing sun rose from Tokyo Bay, and the chirping of cicadas came from the courtyard of the school building. A drop of sweat flowed down her temples, slipped into the collar of the summer uniform she had just changed into today, and finally disappeared into the edge of her underwear. "Forget it, let's go back to the music classroom." "Senpai, wait for me." She didn't put the saxophone back, but directly took it in her hand. Picking up the instrument case, Sai Kitahara ran towards Mayasahi's back. At 9 o'clock, everyone had already arrived, and after a long time of basic training, Toru Watanabe leisurely walked into the music classroom where the air was gradually getting muddy. After changing into a short-sleeved summer school uniform, he looked very fresh and clean, like a white bedsheet drying under the sun. With a whistle in his mouth, he didn't play any part of the music score, but Jingle Bells. After he sat down in his seat, Rin Kiyono looked around the classroom. Today's plan is to play ensemble until the scheduled performance in the afternoon. She ignored the members' cries and continued. "Start tuning." "Yes." Yuki wrapped her lips around the clarinet's mouthpiece. "Wait a minute." Rin Kiyono interrupted her. "From today onwards, the tuning will be given to the oboe." The original silence in the classroom began to evolve into silence. A girl stood up. "Kiyono-san, everyone is already used to tuning with Yuki-senpai, and there hasn't been any problems. I don't think there is a need to change. I don't care how it was before, whether you are used to it or not, I only pursue the best." Rin Kiyono expressionlessly rejected the other party's request. Tetsuji Watanabe whistled triumphantly at the ceiling, sounding like a train whistle. Boo 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 dash. The girl sat down with a bang, and the steel chair made a harsh sound. Rin Kiyono looked at Toru Watanabe, who didn't sit properly. "Let's start. I'll let you see, even if it's tuning, there is a gap in strength." Toru Watanabe inserted the whistle into the oboe, regardless of the other people's expressions, minding his own business and playing. Unlike him, who was annoying when he spoke, Toru Watanabe's high-pitched A note had excellent penetrating power. The oboe shook the air and penetrated everyone's eardrums as if they had been punched in the head. It was obviously just a reproduction of the same note. Why was his performance so different? How on earth could such a paralyzing sound be produced? Just when everyone was silent and at a loss, the sound of a bass horn suddenly sounded. It was Mayasahi. Oboe, bass horn, the same melody, intertwined with each other in the hot summer music classroom with the air conditioning on. Then came the bassoon, then the bass cello, and then the trombone. By the window, it was unknown whose transparent kettle, the tea inside was vibrating up and down with the neat sound of the instruments. The slightly undulating waves reflected the various colors of the sunlight outside the window. Rin Kiyono raised his hand, indicating that it was done. Sigh. A long sigh, Everyone put down their instruments and looked for the source of the sound. They saw Tetsumasa Watanabe wiping the whistle. None of them can play. The little bit of admiration that had just risen in their hearts was instantly covered by anger. Before they could react. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. As Rin Kiyono waved his baton, the drums began to beat the beat, followed by the main melody of the brass and woodwind. It was the same as yesterday. It was obviously an ensemble, but as long as the oboe made a sound, it became a solo. Not to mention the audience, even the performers would subconsciously listen to the beautiful sound of the oboe amidst a group of musical instruments. Stop. Rin Kiyono put down his baton and fell into deep thought, then suddenly raised his head. Kitahara. Toru Watanabe turned around and blew a whistle at Hayashi Kitahara. Boo! Other oboe musicians, once tuned, would not move the whistle again. Because if it was inserted slightly deeper or shallower, the sound produced would be very different in the ears of professionals. For example, the oboe musician Sato Noriko, after tuning, would never take it off unless it needed to be cleaned. Toru Watanabe, on the other hand, would take it off and use it as a whistle. Here. Boo Boo, who had been painted on the whistle of Northern Plains, lowered his head and replied slowly, Here. The classroom fell into a torturous silence. Everyone knew that after Rin Kiyono finished speaking, this innocent girl would once again be ridiculed by the opposite sex. Please practice until you can blow the whistle at any time. The sound of the whistle stopped abruptly. Kitahara suddenly raised her head, her mouth slightly open, staring at Rin Kiyono in disbelief. Did you hear that? Rin Kiyono's cold gaze pressured her. Tears of excitement welled up in her eyes. Kitahara's emotions were about to erupt like a volcano. Yes. Smaf, you have to be more neat here. During the break, Toru Watanabe, who had been acting all morning and mocking to the point that his mouth was dry, decided to go to the Human Observation Department's activity room to drink some juice. The fridge in the corner of the classroom was filled with luxurious snacks, juice, and other food for the dance party every day. Drinking watermelon juice, Toru Watanabe looked across the table at Rin Kiyono, who was writing on a sheet of music. Your performance just now wasn't bad. You're suddenly popular. I don't intend to be popular with them. You didn't have any friends before, because you lacked a character like me. As long as I was more outrageous than you, those people would see your brilliance. More outrageous than me? Rin Kiyono raised her head. Yes. Toru Watanabe savored the taste of the fruit on his tongue. You mean I'm outrageous? Now that the beautiful girl in front of him had a dangerous look in her eyes, Toru Watanabe decided to test her emotions first. You maybe, want to hear the truth, right? Don't use a hesitant tone, I just want to hear the truth. Promise you won't be angry, won't throw a tantrum? Toru Watanabe learned from his mistakes. As a Saint Seiya, he definitely wouldn't lose to the same trick twice. But then again, not only did Saint Seiya use the same trick for a long time, but it also seemed like they were often defeated by the same trick. After hearing Toru Watanabe's words, Rin Kiyono's beautiful face couldn't help but show a funny expression. Yes, I won't be angry, I won't throw a tantrum, but, her eyes flashed with a hint of mockery, the weather is hot, I want to drink iced juice. During the holidays on campus, there were two places to obtain an item called iced juice. 1. Miki Kujo's fridge. Toru Watanabe didn't mind drinking it himself, but if he gave it to someone else, especially a woman, and this woman's name was Rin Kiyono, Toru Watanabe didn't plan to do this before he had his own tank and found a driver and a commander. 2. The vending machine on the first floor. Everyone, I need to reiterate the location of the Human Observation Department's activity room, the 5th floor of the club building. On the 5th floor, there was also something that everyone knew. Tokyo was very hot, so this was also a choice that was not fatal but also very painful. After a simple consideration, Toru Watanabe decided to temporarily show weakness to the enemy. How is that excessive? You're just telling the truth, and some people don't like to hear the truth. Rin Kiyono snorted, rolled her eyes at him, and continued to bury her head in the music score. Why do I feel like she's more girly than before? After a while, Rin Kiyono took the music score filled with notes and went to each department to teach the students how to train. Because the people from the calligraphy department next door were resting, Toru Watanabe decided to practice in the activity room. His goal was to make the students hate him, but he didn't like to stay in a space where everyone hated him. After practicing for a while, the door to the activity room was pushed open. "You're back so soon, senior." Standing outside the door was Masahi, whose eyes were as clear as water. The tall, slender, and curvaceous senior from the coal department quietly closed the door and locked it from the inside. The sound of the chain opening made Toru Watanabe gulp. "Senior Ming Tion, why did you suddenly come here?" "Call me Mai." "Ha. Call me Mai." Masahi walked towards Toru Watanabe. Seeing that she wasn't going to let him escape, Toru Watanabe stood up instinctively. "Senior sister, what brings you here?" "I'm here to show Toru Watanabe your underwear." Her tone was so natural that it was as if she was showing him the music score. Masahi started unbuttoning her shirt one by one. By the time she unbuttoned the third button, her black underwear and white underwear were already visible. For a young man who was filled with endless fantasies, such a scene was fatally attractive. Toru Watanabe tried very hard to move his eyes away from the black and white. But his peripheral vision was already out of control. As Masahi approached, Toru Watanabe found that his back was already pressed against the wall. Toru Watanabe wanted to escape, but Masahi forced him to the window and blocked his way with her hand on the transparent glass. "Am I being pressed against the wall?" Toru Watanabe's brain lost its ability to think. But a sense of panic immediately swept over him. Toru Watanabe didn't hate this scene, but at least changed the location and time. Rin Kiyono could come back at any time. The music classroom was on the third floor across from him. There was also a row of music classrooms. The music club members only needed to look out the window to clearly see him. Besides, he wasn't the Toru Watanabe from before he went to Imperial Tea. If the current him was discovered to be having an affair, he would definitely be killed. Senior." Their gazes met at close range. Toru Watanabe saw that Masahi's originally snow-white cheeks were burning red. His gaze naturally moved downwards. Her white shirt and black underwear were both swollen. A wave of heat rushed straight to his head. A close-up of his senior's body really wasn't good for his heart. Toru Watanabe looked and looked. He originally wanted to say something, but for some reason, he felt a little breathless and couldn't say anything. Masahi remained silent. Her lips were tightly pursed, and her shy expression showed that she was enjoying Toru Watanabe's gaze. In the activity classroom, the artificial air conditioning could no longer block out the natural summer heat. Toru Watanabe's hot breath blew out and hit Masahi's collarbone. Every time this happened, her body would slightly tremble as if she were having spasms. The dreamlike sunlight shone on Masahi's white shirt. Toru Watanabe could see the slender lines of her body. Looking down, every time the skirt swayed, he could faintly see the red of her white thighs. Toru Watanabe forcefully swallowed a mouthful of saliva, but found that his throat was still dry. He began to wonder if he had really swallowed something just now. Could it be that this was an illusion? Had he actually fallen asleep on the table just now? Because wasn't this all too dreamy? The school building, the hot summer, the white school uniform, the female high school student and the male high school student, their chests pressed against each other's chest. Just as their breaths came out of their lungs, they were inhaled by the other person. This scene should have been drawn on the cover of a light novel or the first episode of an anime to attract the audience. Just as Toru Watanabe was worried about being seen, but he couldn't bear to push her away, Masahi suddenly raised her face. She closed her eyes, and her long eyelashes fluttered up and down. A drop of sweat followed the perfect arc of her 2 steps and fell into the cleft of her collarbone, drawing out a curve that stimulated hormones. Phew! She slowly exhaled a breath that was filled with a sweet smell. It seemed to be accompanied by a hazy mist. Masahi staggered backward, exhausted, and sat down on Toru Watanabe's steel chair. "It's over?" "Senior sister is unexpectedly Useless? Toru Watanabe felt terrible. Just at this moment, the pink atmosphere dissipated, and the chirping of cicadas came from outside the window. It felt like his eardrums were being pricked. "Senior, why did you do this?" "I don't know." Mayasahi's face was still flushed, and delicious spring water seemed to be flowing out of her eyes. "You don't know?" "Yeah," she replied softly, and then muttered as if she was lost in her own thoughts. "Nothing matters except Che." Did it mean that external stimuli could not stimulate any emotions, and he was the only exception? "But I did that kind of thing in the piano club." "Why?" Toru Watanabe didn't know whether to use the word like or infatuated. "Get close to me?" Che's attitude towards others is good. "I don't care." Mayasahi shook her head, and her dry, grass-like bangs swayed, giving her a hint of naivety. "I already have a girlfriend." "I don't care." Mayasahi lifted her legs slightly and reached her hands into her pleated skirt. Although he couldn't see the world under her skirt, judging from her movements, she was undoubtedly pulling something down. "Senior, this really won't do." Now, the only woman Toru Watanabe dared to touch and could touch as he pleased was Miki Kujo. Toru Watanabe admitted that he was a bit of a pervert, but at the same time, he was a very good judge of the situation. In some people's words, he was a coward. He was fine with looking, but he definitely wouldn't touch her physically. Only a pervert would lose his life and hurt his parents for a moment of impulse. When Miki Kujo came back, wouldn't it be better to touch her? Recently, he had been reading books on how to massage. So no matter how good Mayasahi's figure was, how cold she was in front of others, and how passionate she was in front of him, he still couldn't. "Please throw it away for me." Toru Watanabe looked at the sweat-soaked black cloth in his hand. "I'll go back first." After saying that, Mayasahi walked out of the door as if nothing had happened. "Senior, you're just like that." How could she not wear anything? What if others saw? Mayasahi tilted her head slightly and looked at Toru Watanabe in confusion. "That below you." Mayasahi thought for a while and seemed to understand what he meant. She put her slender hand on her waist and pulled down her skirt. The skirt went past her knees, and it was no different from cropped pants. This still wasn't. How could it be? Was it a matter of the skirt's length? It was the difference between wearing and not wearing, nothing and something, 0 and 1. Chapter 86. Mayasahi left. The only thing left behind was a pair of soft black underwear on the table. Toru Watanabe was thinking about how to deal with the controlled product in front of him. Although he already had 2 pairs of stockings hidden in his room, they were still stockings, and the owner of the stockings was his girlfriend, Miki Kujo. Even if someone found out, he could still explain it away. But Mayasahi's underwear. This wasn't a book that Kujio would only make fun of if it was seen. Its existence was like a bomb that didn't have a predetermined time to detonate. He decided to find a trash can far away from his apartment and throw it away. Toru Watanabe covered his face with both hands as he thought absent-mindedly. The scene of Mayasahi unbuttoning 3 buttons appeared in his mind. After that, Toru Watanabe couldn't stop himself from looking at Mayasahi's pleated skirt out of the corner of his eye. After a period of observation, he discovered that the risk of her being exposed was actually quite low. First of all, the oboe musicians were at the back of the classroom, near the edge. Mayasahi was also practicing in her seat, and she almost didn't go to the bathroom. In addition, her skirt was deliberately lowered. Unless there was a plot that was popular in light novels, but would never happen in real life, it was impossible to be discovered. At noon, the morning's training came to an end. Because there was a scheduled performance in the afternoon, everyone had 2 hours to eat and move. Toru Watanabe acted alone. In order to integrate Rin Kiyono into the band, he deliberately kept a distance from her in front of them. This was something that he couldn't ask for more. At least Miki Kujo wouldn't find an excuse to punish him. Moreover, at this moment, Toru Watanabe didn't want to walk with anyone. After all, he was wearing women's underwear. Too perverted. As Toru Watanabe stood on the platform, he couldn't help but worry that the train attendant would suddenly rush over and ask for a body search. If that was the case, he would really have to jump into the train tracks and commit suicide. I'd better stay away from my Asahi in the future. Toru Watanabe raised his palm towards the blue sky and blew on the back of his hand. This was the breathing method that Rin Kiyono had taught him. Don't stop breathing. You have to build a bridge of breath between the back of your hand and your lips. She was still able to repeat her words without missing a single word. The white clouds flowed slowly between his fingers, as if they were blown away by him. At this moment, a group of girls wearing Kanagawa High School uniforms walked onto the platform. They were members of the bass section. In order to avoid the scorching sun, they ran into Toru Watanabe's shelter. Asako Hanada and Aoi Ichiki nodded at him, while the others ignored him. Only my Asahi sat beside him as if nothing had happened. The fragrance of her body was captured by Toru Watanabe's nostrils. The rest of the people were stunned, but seeing that Asami didn't greet him, they only thought that she didn't put Toru Watanabe in her eyes at all and didn't suspect the relationship between the two. Toru Watanabe subconsciously glanced at her dress and immediately moved away from her. Since he had decided to distance himself from this crazy girl, he should act immediately. What Toru Watanabe didn't expect was that my Asahi sat next to him again. The people in the bass section were dumbfounded by her behavior. At this moment, my Asahi patted the empty seat and said to Asako Hanada, "Sit." So she was making room for someone else. Although she was a bit cold, she was actually very gentle deep down. This was what the bass section members thought. Crazy girls are scary. I want to go back to the countryside. This was what Toru Watanabe thought. The bass section members surrounded my Asahi and chatted among themselves. They said that the weather was too hot and recommended sunscreen to each other. The atmosphere was very lively, but Toru Watanabe only felt that they were noisy and the weather was even hotter. Can't summer be quieter? Are they sparrows or cicadas? After complaining in his heart, Toru Watanabe stared at the clouds in a daze. The tram clanked into the station and stirred up a hot wind. When they got on, my Asahi whispered in Toru Watanabe's ear. "Don't worry, I won't let anyone see." What does that mean? Does it mean that I'm fine with it? Women are too cunning. If she said that, Toru Watanabe couldn't treat her as a crazy girl anymore. During the regular performance in the afternoon, the trumpet section received applause. Although the applause could barely be considered warm, it was a world of difference compared to the last time when they were laughed at. After the performance, Rin Kiyono announced that they were dismissed for the day. She told everyone to have a good night's rest and to continue practicing tomorrow. Toru Watanabe and Rin Kiyono were going home on the same route, so the two met halfway. After so many methods of training, they should be obedient to you in the future, right? Toru Watanabe smiled and deliberately showed the ugly face of a capitalist who had successfully exploited his workers. Rin Kiyono looked at him with dissatisfaction. Don't say that I'm sinister. You decided and implemented the idea without permission. You also cooperated, didn't you? In fact, it's a joint crime. Rin Kiyono sighed. I can't refute that. The two of them walked along the Shinjuku National Highway for a while and passed by a bus stop that was sprayed with mist. Rin Kiyono suddenly said, "Thank you for this matter." Her tone was very sincere, with a sense of openness. Toru Watanabe wasn't used to this kind of scene. It was like a father suddenly saying, "Son, I love you." It's enough to understand each other's feelings, why say it so formally? I'll be shy. Helping a beautiful girl like Kiyono-san is my duty. Toru Watanabe used a joke to break the serious atmosphere. Rin Kiyono covered her mouth and laughed. Ah, I thought I was special. It turns out that Watanabe-san is like this to every cute girl. No, no, no. Toru Watanabe deliberately changed his words in a hurry. I'm only like this to Kiyono-san. Rin Kiyono quickly blinked twice and looked at him in a daze. What's wrong? Toru Watanabe was puzzled. Rin Kiyono turned her head and didn't look at him. She whispered, "Thank you." If it weren't for the two of them being close to each other and the fact that it was 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon in July, the streets were very quiet because of the heat, Toru Watanabe wouldn't have heard her words clearly. "Why are you thanking me again?" Was what I said just now the truth?" "Yes." "Kiyono-san, don't misunderstand. I don't like you. I just think that someone like you who insists on not lying should have someone on your side, supporting you, and helping you." "So it's like that. I thought it was a confession of love. I was thinking about how to refuse so that you wouldn't rush to the road and commit suicide." "Commit suicide? Kiyono-san, you might have a heat stroke." "Heat stroke? No. But you don't look good." Hello? Kiyono, are you okay?" The distant road was distorted by the sun's rays. Toru Watanabe's voice was getting farther and farther away. After a moment of dizziness, Rin Kiyono lost consciousness. The fruit knife from the $100 store can also be peeled without touching the knife. Rin Kiyono woke up from her coma. Her 5 senses gradually recovered. The smell of the hospital's disinfectant lingered in her nose, and Toru Watanabe's incomprehensible mutterings entered her ears. "It's me. What's wrong? You're awake?" Rin Kiyono looked at Toru Watanabe walking over with a peeled apple. She didn't have the appetite to eat. "Thank you, but I'm not." Crunch. The apple was bitten, leaving a hole that could be used as a logo. "You're welcome. I just called an ambulance. Oh, by the way, the doctor said that you're fine. You're just physically weak and haven't had a good rest recently. Plus, you've been using your brain too much. Then you got a heat stroke under the sun." Toru Watanabe enjoyed the apple's sweet juice and plump flesh. Rin Kiyono looked at the apple being eaten bite by bite and closed her eyes again. "Do you feel any discomfort? If you feel any discomfort, you must tell me. I'll call the doctor for you." Toru Watanabe took another bite of the apple. It's fresh and full of water. It has a unique fragrance. I've only eaten this kind of apple in my hometown. It's freshly plucked from the tree. Do you know? In my school, there's an old apple tree. It's been more than 30 years. Every year, it produces green apples. Have you eaten a green apple before? It's not sour, it's very sweet. The whole ward was filled with the sound of apples being eaten and Toru Watanabe's endless recollections. Rin Kiyono felt dizzy. She wanted to massage her temples, but found that her usual hand was on a drip, so she had to use her other hand. Toru Watanabe finished the apple, threw away the core, and went to the bathroom to wash his hands. "Do you want something to drink?" "Drink. I'll buy it for you," he asked while wiping his hands. "Apple. So you want to eat it? Didn't you say you didn't want it?" Rin Kiyono's face turned red. She asked in disbelief, "You did it on purpose?" "Ha ha ha." Toru Watanabe laughed happily. Rin Kiyono covered her head with the blanket and pretended to be dead. Once a person was lying in a hospital bed, they would appear weak. If it was the Rin Kiyono in the activity room, she would definitely use the sharpest words to fight back. But this guy is too cute. Is he seducing me by doing this with 9 points of charm? He must be, right? Toru Watanabe picked up another apple and started to peel it with the fruit knife. "I bought this from a stall in front of the hospital. It's not a fancy fruit store like the one in Ginza. I don't know if you like it." While he was buying the fruit, he secretly got rid of the black underwear. "What's the difference?" Rin Kiyono's voice was more dull and weak than usual. "You sound like a rich girl with no common sense." Toru Watanabe tried to keep the apple peeled. "Do you know Ikebukuro West Street? This was the main place where he spent his money before he got the system and ate Miki Kujo's soft rice." "I've never been there. I don't think you'll go to that kind of place." When the locals hear the name of the place, they can imagine how shabby the fruit stores there are. Of course, this is compared to the fruit stores in Ginza. For ordinary people, the quality of the fruit is within the acceptable range. Why can you imagine it just by hearing the name of the place? There are massage salons, pornographic video halls, and barbecue restaurants next to it. What do you think? You went to pornographic video halls. Rin Kiyono said with certainty for some reason. Wrong. Out of 4 choices, you're wrong. I really don't know how you got first place in school. It's because I have a bad impression of you that I made the wrong choice. Yes. I've already peeled the fruit for you. Eat it, young miss. Toru Watanabe put down the fruit knife and handed the peeled apple to her. Rin Kiyono poked her head out of the quilt. Her face had returned to normal. She took the apple with her white and slender hand, said thank you, and took a bite of the apple with satisfaction. The peel in the trash can broke once. What a pity. It seems that I still need the fruit knife from the system to fully display my strength. Toru Watanabe simply threw the responsibility to the cheap fruit knife from the 100 yuan store. After Rin Kiyono finished eating and wiped her hands with a wet towel, Toru Watanabe looked out the window. The sun was already setting. Since you're fine, I'll leave first. He got up and prepared to leave. Okay. Sorry to trouble you today. Toru Watanabe waved his hand, picked up the box with the oboe on the sofa, and walked out of the ward. Chapter 87. Maybe it was because they were praised for their performances, or maybe they didn't want to be mocked by Toru Watanabe, but during the next 2 days of break, more and more members came to practice in the morning. It was Tuesday, and after the 3 days of break, it was time for normal school again. At noon, the results of the monthly test were announced. Even after studying hard, Toru Watanabe, who was first in the liberal arts, overestimated his science level. Once again, he ranked third by a small margin. But it didn't matter. He had already decided to work hard before he turned 25 to ensure that he could live a leisurely and prosperous life after that. Since he was going to work hard, it was actually a good thing to have a goal in front of him. As long as he could get first place in the national exam, it would be fine. At that time, he could publish a book called How I, who was born in an abandoned school in Iwate Prefecture, became the #1 in the country. It would be a hot-blooded youth novel. Maybe he could win the Japan Bookstore Award, and adapt it into a TV series, movie, anime, manga, and live a decadent life of eating royalties at the age of 18. That was a good idea. When the last class was about to end, Toru Watanabe wrote down his schedule in his notebook: 3rd year graduation spring break, write a book. At the top of this paragraph, he wrote, play music games instead. When the bell rang, Toru Watanabe closed his notebook and packed his bag. When he was about to go to the club building with Keisuke Saito, Aona Koizumi called him over. What's the matter, Koizumi-sensei? It's almost the end of the semester. The 3-way interview will start next week. Watanabe, tell your family about it in advance. Oh, okay. Toru Watanabe nodded. The 3-way interview was at the end of the semester. It was a 3-way interview between the teachers, students, and parents. It was usually about the students' situation at school and their future career prospects. It was good news for the students of Kanagawa High School because the week of the interview, they only had half a day of class. In the afternoon, they could stay in school to participate in club activities or go to cram school. Aona Koizumi sized up Toru Watanabe and said with a smile, "You seem to have grown taller recently?" "Is that so?" Toru Watanabe compared himself with her and found that he had indeed grown a little taller. The two of them got closer. Through the open collar of his shirt, she could vaguely see his gradually firm chest. Aona Koizumi felt a gush of hot air rush to her face. "How can you treat me as a ruler? There's a physical examination this Friday. I'll take a test then." She smiled and pushed Toru Watanabe away. Physical examination? What will the physical examination in Tokyo test? It's very normal. Vision, height, weight, blood pressure, heart, etc. Men and women together. What nonsense are you thinking? Aona Koizumi raised her hand and flicked Toru Watanabe's forehead. Your punishment is to clean the swimming pool at noon tomorrow. Toru Watanabe looked reluctant. It was so hot at noon. Aona Koizumi whispered, there are benefits. Swimming pool. Benefits. I'd love to. After getting some school arrangements from Aona Koizumi in advance, Toru Watanabe went back to the classroom and called Keisuke Saito, who was waiting for him. The two of them went to the club building together. Why is Koizumi-sensei looking for you? Physical examination on Friday. Interview next week. Also, swimming class is about to start. Swimming class? I heard that in Kamigawa, boys and girls are separated. There's no expectation at all. Next door, Komiai High School is better. Although boys and girls are separated, it's only half of the swimming pool. Is that so? You don't know? I heard that Tokyo is very open, so I came here. Why is it like this? Toru Watanabe was very angry, thinking that he had been deceived. Openness has nothing to do with the region. There are open people everywhere, and there are conservatives everywhere. Keisuke Saito comforted him and patted his shoulder. At the same time, he also comforted himself. 2D is better. That's right. In the hallway of the school building, the two of them reached a consensus. In the music classroom, before the ensemble, Rin Kiyono asked, in this month's test, did anyone's results drop? About 6 people raised their hands. Rin Kiyono asked them to stop training at noon and start the evening study session an hour earlier, but they refused. Even if we enter the national competition, everything will end this summer. We want to work hard this time. As for the results, we will make up for it in the second and third semester. In their hearts, they finally had the idea that maybe we can really enter the national competition. This was good news for both the music department and the human observation department. As usual, training ended in the middle of the night. Everyone had a tired face. They hoped that everything they had put in would pay off. At noon the next day, Toru Watanabe was called to clean the swimming pool. In addition, there were a few girls in the same class. Keisuke Saito and Osamu Kanai, who were tricked by him, also went with them. Everyone changed into their summer sportswear. The boys were responsible for cleaning the pool, while the girls took care of the more delicate work such as the faucet. In the shallow pool, the three of them used a large mop to clean the pool walls. Watanabe, you bastard. I'll kill you. Didn't you say that we could see the girls wet? They won't come over. Don't be impulsive. The broom is dirty. Take it away. I was tricked too. It was Koizumi-sensei who told me that there would be benefits. After the two of them blamed Toru Watanabe, they talked about the recent anime. Did you guys watch the latest episode of Girls' Chariot? Oh, it was recorded, but we haven't watched it yet. Why? The main characters started fighting the Soviet tanks. Katyusha's canine teeth are so cute. Katyusha. Toru Watanabe was confused. Isn't that a song? Where did the canine teeth come from? Osamu Kanai explained, there's a young girl in it, not exactly a young girl, but a girl who looks like a young girl called Katyusha. She has very cute canine teeth. And then they sang, Katyusha. They sang themselves? Osamu Kanai talked about how much he liked the girl who looked like a young girl, but it was still not enough. He raised the mop like a gun. For the Soviet Union. Hurrah! Just as the pear blossoms bloom all over the world, soft muslin floats on the river. Katyusha stands on the steep shore, singing like the bright spring. Together. Ah! Did this guy know about the War of the Four Northern Islands between Japan and Russia? Although Katyusha was famous, it was only a love song, so it didn't matter if they sang it. Anyway, it had nothing to do with him, a staunch socialist. Since they had nothing to do, the three of them were in high spirits. As they mopped the floor, they sang Katyusha loudly, which they could only roughly remember how to hum. It was a lively scene. The girl sings a beautiful song. She sings of the eagle of the grassland. She sings of the man she loves, she also hides a letter from her lover. Katyusha stands on the steep shore, singing like the bright spring. The song ended with Osamu Kunai shouting, "Hurrah!" into the sky. The girls in the class, as well as the students in the classroom near the pool, looked at him as if he was an idiot. Toru Watanabe decided to stay away from him in the future. Although the man was a teenager until his death, he still had not recovered from his Chunibyo illness. No matter how he thought about it, it was this guy's fault. As a card, he could not be addicted to the second dimension, Watanabe. After cleaning, Aona Koizumi bought everyone a bottle of iced drinks. This was the benefit she had mentioned. Toru Watanabe is really an idiot to have expectations for the benefits the teacher mentioned. Toru Watanabe opened the can and took a big gulp of carbonated water. Chapter 88. In the afternoon art class, Toru Watanabe imitated Leonardo da Vinci's Mona Lisa and drew a Katyusha. Unfortunately, he had never seen a Soviet girl before, so Katyusha looked a bit like a Homo erectus, also known as a late ape man. Taking into account the geographical attributes, she could be classified as a Heidelberg ape man in more detail. The art teacher gave a C evaluation and said that the painting didn't look like it. Toru Watanabe really wanted to ask him, "Teacher, have you seen a Soviet girl before? If you haven't, why did you say that it didn't look like it?" But before he turned 25, he didn't want to waste time on such meaningless things. He still had a lot of important things to do. For example, studying how to deal with women's underwear and stockings. 8 o'clock in the evening, in the music classroom. Under the direction of Rin Kiyono, the members of Team A were working hard to perform an ensemble. Because they had been blowing on their mouths for a long time, everyone's lips began to ache, but they still played with all their strength. Rin Kiyono's baton was sometimes raised high and sometimes quickly waved down. The ensemble that carried the dream of Kanagawa High School echoed in the music classroom late at night. But it was quickly interrupted. At this time, except for the occasional teacher on duty who would come to check on the situation, no one would open the classroom door, but it was opened. And it was opened very rudely and rudely. Miki Kujo appeared in front of more than 60 people with her arms crossed in front of her chest. She was wearing a black dress, and her originally very thin waist was tightly wrapped, like a blooming black rose. Miki Kujo was the first to catch sight of Toru Watanabe, who was holding the oboe, and the corners of her mouth rose slightly. Rin Kiyono frowned and was about to say something, but when he saw Toru Watanabe stand up, he didn't say anything. Toru Watanabe quickly walked in front of Miki Kujo. "Miki, why are you here?" He lowered his voice and asked. "Of course I want to see you." Miki Kujo ignored the rest of the 60 people and answered directly. Her voice, which was a little hoarse than usual, rippled in the quiet music classroom, making people's hearts itch. Toru Watanabe couldn't tell if he was embarrassed or touched his nose shyly. He turned to look at the others and said to her, "I'm training. Don't do such boring things. Come and eat with me." This. All right. Satisfied, Miki Kujo placed her soft and cold hand into his palm. Then, she smiled and said to Rin Kiyono, who was in the commander's seat, "Kiyono classmate, I'll take my Watanabe away first. Watanabe is the only oboe player in the ensemble, so we can't do without him." Rin Kiyono's expression was calm, and her tone was unusually cold. "Then let's not do the ensemble today," Miki Kujo said indifferently. She looked at Toru Watanabe and said, "Watanabe, what do you say?" "There's nothing more important than going on a date with you, Miki." Toru Watanabe looked at her affectionately. Then, he raised his head and said to Rin Kiyono, "Kiyono classmate, I think there's absolutely no problem with me. You can even go directly to the competition. You should train them well. I'll be leaving first today." The members of the instrument department had ugly expressions. Some people's eyes were even burning with anger. At this time, the beautiful sound of the bass horn suddenly sounded in the classroom. Toru Watanabe's heart skipped a beat. He was so nervous that his toes curled into a ball. Miki Kujo looked at Mayasahi. Mayasahi was looking down at the score. Her face was blocked by the bass horn. This classmate, you don't seem to want me to take Watanabe away? Yes. Mayasahi's lips moved away from the mouthpiece. She said calmly but firmly. Senpai Asahi, it's okay to play a little less together. Besides, today's almost over. Toru Watanabe quickly extinguished the signs of the Azura arena. He turned everyone's dissatisfaction with Mayasahi into the fact that she couldn't continue the training. Okay. Mayasahi unexpectedly nodded immediately. Her bangs swayed. Although her tone was as flat as usual, she actually looked a little obedient. This scared Toru Watanabe so much that his heart skipped a beat. Miki Kujo narrowed her eyes slightly. She smiled and looked at Mayasahi's side profile. Toru Watanabe used a lot of strength to hold her hand without hurting her. Miki, let's go. I recently found a good sushi restaurant. I'll take you there to try it. Miki Kujo glanced at him. Suddenly, the sound of a trombone came. Toru Watanabe looked at the sound. Yoshimi Tamamo was looking at him angrily. It can't be. Toru Watanabe tried hard to recall. He didn't seem to have offended her recently. Yoshimi Tamamo said angrily. It's fine if you deliberately attack people. Everyone tolerated it because you're the only oboe player. But now you actually left during training time. Everyone is working hard. The seniors even gave up on preparing for exams. Can you have some self-awareness? So it was like that. Toru Watanabe breathed a sigh of relief. But then again, it turned out that Yoshimi Tamamo cared so much about club activities. In Toru Watanabe's heart, he subconsciously thought that people who associate with others because of money shouldn't have such a hard-working side. Sure enough, in the real world, everyone has a different face. Many times, the same person in different people's mouths will have completely different descriptions. They gave up on preparing for exams because their playing skills aren't good enough. I gave up training because I'm strong enough that I don't need to train. The reason is that simple. Toru Watanabe replied. You. Yoshimi Tamamo's almond eyes widened. Her pretty face was red with anger. She angrily played the trombone with all her strength. Why did you change your character? Miki Kujo asked with a smile. I learned how to play the oboe in half a month. These people are stupid and stupid. They keep dragging me down. I'm so angry. My temper is usually very good. Rin Kiyono looked at the blowing club member who really wanted to kill someone and helplessly sighed. If you want to leave, then leave quickly. Don't affect our training. Toru Watanabe immediately held Miki Kujo's hand and left the music room. On the way out of the school gate, Miki Kujo meaningfully sneered, You have a good relationship with that person, Asaka-senpai? There's no such thing. She probably likes me. Toru Watanabe's expression didn't change, but please rest assured Miki-sama, my heart only has you. Is that so? Of course. The furthest distance in the world is to say and do it. Miki Kujo pointed at Toru Watanabe. You won't disappoint me, right? Absolutely not. Toru Watanabe promised. Miki Kujo snorted, but she was satisfied with Toru Watanabe's bad attitude towards other girls. Plus, she was too sleepy, so she let him go this time. Alright, Miki, why did you suddenly come back? Miki Kujo yawned, faint tears in the corner of her eyes. The matter abroad is temporarily over. So, we can go to school together again? You miss me that much? But it's a pity that it'll have to be next week. I need to rest this week, Miki Kujo said as she yawned again. When they reached the school gate, Miki Kujo suddenly said, Forget it, I'm going back to sleep. Ah. Toru Watanabe didn't react. The car door opened and Miki Kujo lazily sat down. What is she doing? Toru Watanabe had a stomach full of doubts. But forget it, today ended early. It's been a long time since I last went swimming. Before the car started, the back seat window opened and a pair of black pantyhose flew out in a parabola and landed in his arms. It was the same pantyhose that Miki Kujo was wearing. It was still warm and smelled good. Take it. Miki Kujo threw a teasing kiss and then disappeared behind the gradually rising car window. The car drove into the night. Toru Watanabe looked at the pantyhose in his hand. After all this fuss, she was just here to give him trash? How preposterous. You're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.